Discover real stories of hope, healing, and redemption. Join us on a journey to overcome the odds and bring hope to the world, one story at a time. Every story has the power to inspire, restore, and uplift others. From personal struggles to triumphs, these journeys show how hope can transform lives. These aren't just stories. They're testimonies of resilience and the power of a fresh start. Welcome to the Repurposed Podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I have a really special guest on today, one that has taken, how many times have we tried to get this?
Oh gosh, that's probably all my fault too. I'm good at committing to things that I'm not actually ready to do yet.
And I'm good at blame shifting, so
Yeah.
I'll say it's you.
I mean, it's
your
probably
fault.
me. At least five or six. But hey, we made it happen.
Six time is the charm.
I literally
Evan
text
Slaughter.
you on the way down.
You did. You knew you
by
could
the
just
way.
spring it on me. Well, I'm glad you did. Thank you for thinking of me.
I did.
So Evan Slaughter, aka Fit to Serve, is your handle.
It's my handle.
You're a content creator and comedian. A little side note, you were Army veteran, Purple Heart recipient.
Yep.
So just
Just
vast.
the gamut. Just doing it all.
Who you are. It just takes up so many dimensions. I do want to say I do still have a little bit of a bone to pick with you.
Oh, great. I figured there would be something to this.
Yeah, this is really, I just wanted to get you down here to embarrass you on camera. When I first met you,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember this. Let's go back a few years, 5 years.
Gosh,
It was at Kill Me Crazy in
5
Homewood.
years.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
And do you remember what happened?
I called you Vanessa.
Vanessa. Who the heck is Vanessa?
For a while, I think I left there thinking your name was Vanessa still.
I remember.
And I don't know. I
You think
blame
Scott
Shift
maybe?
and I blame Scott. But I can't 100% say that it was him. Maybe I just thought you looked like a Vanessa.
What
And
do
so in my
Vanessas
mind,
look
I was like, exactly like you. Look in a mirror. They're, arrogant. They've got an attitude about them. They've got a way about how
mostly
they move
Scorpios.
through the room. Yeah. Long hair. Very pretentious. I mean, yeah, Vanessa.
Nailed it. So yeah, I definitely should be a Vanessa.
And we actually, that still is your name at times when you're being a Vanessa. I think
Right.
we kept that going for a
yes,
little
it
while
was an
too.
alter ego.
Yeah.
And I actually still use it when I'm like with my friends and like,
become
hey, who
Vanessa.
are we gonna be tonight? I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
Vanessa.
I'm going to be Vanessa.
And I feel like I can like really merge into that
really
persona
come out of
well.
your shell
Yeah.
when you're Vanessa.
Yeah. So that's just
You'll see there. You're welcome. I've given you a whole nother side of yourself. that
right.
you
A
didn't
whole
know
nother
existed.
dimension. I'm not I don't have your background, but I am Vanessa on the
Hey,
side.
If you ever have to like leave, or just run away from life, become someone else, you've already got an alter ego
I
figured
do.
out.
Yeah.
And
Do you
a
know someone
name,
that
an
does fake
alias.
ideas
Oh, yeah.
or
We can-
IDs?
yeah.
Okay. So I'll just
For
contact
sure.
you.
Yeah. We can get that handled.
Well-
Get you tonight. You need one tonight?
Yeah. We'll talk about it after.
I'd be leaving after I see that chicken and rice smoothie. God,
No,
I
no.
literally
I
almost
actually have
threw
you a
up.
go away, like a to go
Oh,
container.
that would
Of
be
chicken and
like,
rice
yeah, that would be
blended.
so. I'm trying to think of things I would rather do than eat that, and I mean, there'd be a lot, like I would change your child's diaper before I took a sip of
Easy.
that,
That's child's play
I don't know. not
compared
for
to that.
all
But
of
you know
us,
what?
Not for all of
Just
us.
because you feel so strongly about it, I'm going to make you two so you can take it and dip your steak in it tonight with your dad.
God.
Your dad.
I
he's
literally,
grilling.
I took a video of it. I literally almost threw up. I started like overthinking it, and like then I was almost
Getting in your
gonna-
head about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which I'm that way. I'm also like a sympathy vomiter. If I see someone else vomiting, I vomit along with them for some reason. So sympathy puking. But
You're
with
just
that,
so
it was
tender.
just,
You're
I don't
just
know,
so
it's things.
such a friend.
If I think about it too much now, I might. And he's just in there in the living room with
Oh,
your parents,
yeah.
with the blender cup, watching Jeopardy or whatever, drinking 5 pounds of chicken and rice.
That's
He's like,
our
I do
every
this
night.
7 times a day. Like, why?
What? No one's making you do this.
Yeah. He's like, it's tough, bro. I was like, yeah.
But
it looks
someone
tough.
has to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Why?
That's
I'd rather
welcome
be
to our
fat and,
life.
yeah.
Every day.
I'd rather be fat and die of, heart attack at 55 than have to drink 7 chicken and rice smoothies a day.
It's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice, Evan. But
get through it. You'll get through it.
He'll get through it. Okay. Well, that's the hope. Come November, we'll be done with his blended meals.
He's better win. That's all I'm saying. Because if he doesn't win it,
he might as well just not come home.
He'll be trying again. He's not going to quit till
no,
he gets that pro
we're
card.
Cutting him off after November. Anywho, enough about Scott and his bodybuilding diet. That's atrocious. Let's get into your story. You were here. You are one of them. I interviewed Alexa one day. You remember Alexa from Weston's wife?
Alexa.
Oh,
yeah.
Weston's wife. I interviewed her. She's from small group.
Mm-hmm.
And
does she have a story?
She does have a story. But you and her were around when I came up with the podcast.
Yeah, I remember you talking to me about doing a podcast.
Kind of just dabbling in it.
I was encouraging you to do that.
Yes.
And look, now you've got, all of this.
This empire.
This is great. I'm serious. There's the basement vibe. You could do a lot with it, Yeah. It reminds me of like that 70s show. That was like a real popular. You could set it, I say you keep the basement going.
But instead it's going to be 50s since this house is built in the 50s. That 50s show.
That 50s show. I don't even know how, what do you do? What do 50s do? You
I feel like shag carpet.
Dress everybody. You have to wear nice clothes. I don't think women could vote or anything at that time. You probably couldn't even drive too. So you just you wouldn't even be able to host a podcast if it was a 50s podcast. That 50s show, you wouldn't even be allowed to be down here with the men in the room.
I will be serving you a full meal down here too, in my heels and my dress. So, maybe 50s. We'll
there wouldn't be as much
idea.
Sass coming from you. I know that much.
I would be more like January. That would be my name. January or June. A little more Cindy.
June. Yeah. June's good.
So we're here. Fast forward a few years, we're here.
Now there's a podcast. What episode number is this? Do you know? Do we even know?
What? Like 15?
Dang, 15,
16?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, obviously you're not watching them. So that's cool.
Well, there's, I like to keep it organic when I do a podcast. So I want to know nothing about the show.
No expectations.
I like to know nothing about the show. Yeah.
Blind. Come on,
nothing
blind.
about it. That's why I didn't even really want to set a date
blind
because
pod.
I was like, I'm just going to show up.
You just want
We're going to keep
up.
it as organic as possible.
We're here.
2 hours before I get to Birmingham. Hey,
you've achieved
I'm down to pod tonight. Now call Ryan. Get him down here. Leave your job and get down here.
Your goal, your intention was achieved.
And it'll be the best episode
it will.
by far.
So let's get into it then.
Let's get into it.
Where do you want to start since you didn't do my questionnaire?
And I've got a thing about questionnaires too.
It's a short one.
People think it's an excuse, but I get these questionnaires all the time to do a podcast.
Testing anxiety?
And whenever I get one, I'm always like, I'm not going to do this. Because that's how I am with homework and stuff too. I'm very that way. And I'm always a last minute, as you can see. I'm a last minute person. I mean, school, it was always studying the night before. And so the questionnaires is kind of the same way for me. It's like I either do it right whenever they send it, or I won't do. You
won't do it.
But I've also truly found.
How did you do in school? By the way,
not great.
I wonder if it's because you didn't study until the night before.
I mean, I'm sitting in this basement with you on a Saturday, so school wasn't for me.
Okay,
and they actually say. True geniuses have a hard time with school, or that's what I've been telling my parents all these years. I was a C. You know what though? I did graduate high school.
Okay.
C student. I was a C. I was average across the board. It was really kind of what I was going for. That's what I was shooting for. Was graduating and not being so low. Like I got into college from it, and I think I'll say this. I think it's actually more impressive to do that and not study, not do any homework hardly, not really do anything you're supposed to do in school appropriately and still be able to get C's and graduate and go to college than it is to be someone who lives in the books, studying all the time like
wasting
my brother,
their life away.
Yeah, making straight A's for what?
For what? They're not gonna. We don't need straight A's where we're at right here down in the basement.
I'm saying, you don't see any straight A students.
But we need.
Ryan's probably a straight A student.
I was actually a straight A
working the
student. Look how
cameras.
far it got me.
Oh, yeah, you for sure were. I could have told you. Yeah. A lot of girls are, though. They've got something about it. It's easier for them, you know?
Well, what I've heard
They've got
actually
it easier.
is
They are
that
graded on a different scale.
well, and I hear that the classroom is actually designed more for girls, not like little boys.
Aesthetically, or?
No, it's just I guess just dynamically. I don't know. Just in how
Okay.
it's structured.
Yeah.
That little boys need to be out doing,
That's true.
living.
Oh,
like
I see what you're saying.
they're like
Yeah.
not sitting at a desk.
Yeah. Like if it were, school out in a dirt pit or something with, tractors and lawnmowers, it would be, yeah, I got you.
Manual labor.
Yeah, manual labor.
sounds fun.
Yeah, the prison yard doing school. Some people do school that way, so. That's how you get a GED in prison, so you can actually, that does work for some people.
It does work. It does work.
What were we saying before that, though?
I did cut you off.
Oh, the questionnaire.
Yeah.
I find that as organically as possible as we can keep it. Now, you and I, it's easy because we didn't even need a questionnaire because we already know each other. We're friends. We already, But also, I just think it goes differently when there's not that it would be scripted, but when you have an outline, you're like, I want to hit on these points, blah, blah, blah. I like to just turn the camera on and just jam out.
Well, some of the questions are to open up like who you are.
Mm-hmm.
One was the nameplate.
Let's go over the questions. Yeah.
But one of them,
now.
but one of them was like, "Is there anything you don't want to talk about?" That's why I asked. I don't want to.
No, there's not. See, and I'm glad that we didn't get to answer that question.
It's not
if there
necessarily
is,
like,
we would
hey,
find
give me
out while it's happening. So that would be cool.
But then that's when Ryan will come in and do his
Yeah,
magic.
because it's not live. We could cut it out. But I'm not. Yeah, I'm not one to. I'm pretty much an open book.
Okay.
I haven't come across anything yet that I haven't wanted to talk about.
Okay.
I've probably
Let's
said
see
too
if we
much
can
actually
find
on some. I talked about something on one recently that I regretted afterwards. And then the guy makes a Instagram short out of that segment on the thing and wants to collab with me. And I'm talking about smoking meth in rehab. And I'm like, it happened one time. I've only done meth one time. Yeah, I've only done it one time, and I did it in a rehab. Of all places.
How does that work?
Oh, God, this place was terrible. I was court ordered to go there. So I was forced to be there, and I was only there so I wasn't in jail, right? This is probably the fourth time I had been to rehab. Things are different now. You'll see how the repurpose part comes. Yeah, this wasn't like last week. Yeah. This was years ago. This was like 2023, 2024. No, I was kidding.
Wait.
This was years ago. Only time. Do you want to hear the story? Now that we're down this road, do you want to wait?
I wonder can you remember
it?
Yeah. Because
I don't want to just now we have to address it. Like I don't want to just say I smoked meth one time and then not tell the story.
But let's flag that. Let's bookmark it because there's a story that got you to meth.
There is.
So would that be the better time to talk about it so people can understand the surrounding, what's the environment, what's the vibe, what's
you see
the setting?
She Vanessa'd me right there, right? That's see, she just took over, turned it. We're not doing what you want to do. Vanessa's here now. This is the platform. No,
we
you're
will
right.
talk about it later.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start?
October 29th, 1985, a little baby boy was born in Montgomery, Alabama.
The Gump.
No, I was born in Montgomery, Alabama, born and raised in Alabama. My dad was working on a farm at the time.
Okay.
My uncle, actually my family on his side, they have a farm that's been in the family. So my uncle, he is married. My Aunt Susan is my dad's sister. Okay. She married into this farm with Uncle Kerry. Is the point. So it's like I'm not inheriting it unless I work my way, unless I get somehow work my way up. But that's been in their, family for a long time. It's like 5,000 acres. I mean, it's a big working farm. There's cattle. There's, so he was doing that as like a farm hand or whatever. And I always like to make this point that my mom when she got pregnant, so I've got an older brother, so she got pregnant first with my older brother, and then 18 months later got pregnant with me. She was on birth control both times. So not only were we,
Y'all were 18 months apart?
Yeah.
Or he was 18 months when she got pregnant?
We're like Irish twins almost,
okay.
basically. Which shows that, it wasn't planned either time. Like, she wasn't planning this. Not only was it not planned, it was actively trying to be prevented. So when I came, with the birth control, birth control in the 80s must have been not great.
BS.
Yeah, it didn't work. It was clearly some pill that didn't work, or it was like a Marlboro Red cigarette or something.
Yeah.
It's like drink 2 shots of vodka and smoke this cigarette at night after sex. That's how you prevent it. Yeah. And sure enough, that's actually how you get pregnant. Mm-hmm. So it actually encouraged pregnancy. Born in Montgomery. And since, my dad, since all of a sudden now there's 2 kids on the way, my brother's there, now I'm on the way. He's like, crap, I gotta get a real job. I can't keep doing this. I'm not making much money. I got to go back to school. School comes back into play. So he didn't have a college degree at the time. They pack up and we moved to Birmingham, the big city. The big city from Montgomery to Birmingham, baby, moving up in life, He's like, well, things aren't going great here. Let's go to Birmingham. And he does night classes and gets his, finishes business degree, and gets a job, is working, So we're living in like apartment life, very, very lower middle class apartment life. My parents are young, late 20s at this point. And we stayed there, Wood Gardens Apartments in Hoover. Still drive by every now and then when I'm out that way, just to reminisce. A lot of memories there. So we're living there. I'm growing up there. Normal kid into sports, playing baseball. Loved baseball, wrestling. My dad was a big wrestler, so he was kind of like encouraging me to do more of that, which I should have stuck with that because I was really, really naturally able to wrestle,
But here in the South, we call it wrestle.
Wrestling. Wrestling. Or incest if you're wrestling with the wrong. Here in the South, we call it incest. No. Let me show you this move, son. This doesn't feel like wrestling, Dad. And that's how I got into meth. So that's it. Pretty much repurposed. Still working on that purpose. Today we'll have a guest on who's still in his journey. Who's still on that journey. Who's midway through that journey. No. So I just didn't, my problem is that, I'll tell you, Hannah, what my problem was. My problem was I was undisciplined. I was spoiled a lot, I was the younger child. And I just didn't, I should have tried harder at things, like I was always in my head, because I was always short, I'm a short dude. That just being a boy and then doing that in sports, you already feel like you're at a disadvantage. So in my mind, I'm like, well, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to be able to, even though I was a really, really good baseball player. I mean, I didn't even try out for the high school team because I was like, oh, you're at Hoover High, the teams are basically already decided from Little League because the parents are involved in the, which there's some truth to that. But, I should have tried harder at some things. That's one thing I think of looking back now. I wish I had done differently. It's just put forth put forth more effort if it's something you really want to do. Mm. But, so I was just, I didn't like school. I didn't like classes. I wasn't, hated it. I hated being in the classroom. I had the attention span, of a 4-year-old. I just I didn't like sitting there and, the idea of homework and studying all that just was not something I was into. Well, my brother was the complete different way, older brother, very smart, very mature, typical good older brother, he just feels older too, even though we're 18 months apart, he's always felt 20 years older than me. And I just kind of played into that. Like, I'm the younger brother. I should be immature and irresponsible. That's my job as a younger sibling, And of course I was babied and and I really, really played into that, still playing into that some in my 40s now.
Daddy making you steaks.
Not going great. Still single.
Oh.
Hurts a little bit, but 3 divorces. Repurposed though. I feel good. It's just school wasn't for me. You know, high school. Like I said, I graduated, made C's, average student, didn't put forth much effort. Went to college because I was told I was going to college, you know. Unfortunately, my granddad had already put aside, there was like this thing you could buy, you know, that he did for all the grandkids where it basically paid for college for everyone. So really fortunate to have that. And like I applied to 2 schools and I knew I wasn't going to get in. I made a 19 on the ACT. Okay. I don't even know how that stacks up. Like I couldn't tell you what a good score on the ACT is. I just know 19's not great. You know, I didn't have a pencil when I went or a calculator. I didn't have anything. I actually took this girl. I picked her up at the house the morning of. We were going to ACT. I think I was out drinking the night before as an 18-year-old. It was like on a Saturday at UAB anyway. So I'm pissed about that. You know, I didn't want to be going. I just wanted it over. Right. You know, and she had to give me a pencil and loan me her calculator. So I literally showed up, no pencil, no calculator, didn't even know we needed a calculator, you know. And I go and I take the ACT. I'm done hours before Ashton was. You know, I'm like waiting in the car, and then she comes out. You know, how'd you do? Like, been out here for 2 hours, and I'm not smart. You know, in that way, it wasn't like a good finish. I didn't finish fast in a good way. I finished fast because I didn't fill out half the sheet. You know, but no, 19, which is not good enough to get you into Auburn. So I applied to Auburn because I wanted to go to Auburn. All my friends were going to Auburn. You know. The Lord was looking out for me, though. Didn't let me go to a state school because I'd probably be dead by now. Auburn and Lipscomb. Lipscomb University, which is a private Christian, small little Christian school in Nashville. And they'll take you if you can afford to go there, you know? And so the C average and the 19 on the ACT didn't really do... It didn't keep me from going, but I did have to take a remedial math class. So I always made jokes about this because I had to take elementary algebra as a freshman in college. And I was always like, this feels... Should I tell people? Do I tell people this, that I'm in elementary algebra? Because like we shouldn't be using the word elementary.
You should drop the elementary.
Yeah,
I'm in
college
algebra. Yeah.
Remedial math class. Elementary. I felt like it sounds like all the kids have helmets on and they're sitting around with no one has a pencil or a calculator in the class. So I did have to. That was the terms for me to get to go there. It was like, oh yeah, you got to embarrass yourself in elementary algebra. And if you don't pass that, you're out. So I did. Yeah, I was able to continue to move forward, but. I was a partier. I was, like I said, I didn't all of a sudden become a good student when I got to college. That's not how it worked. I actually just became a worse student because then I found out no one's making me go to class. You know, you don't have to go to class. Wow. No one's going to call my mom if I don't go to class. I didn't know you could so I started kind of just not going to class every now and then. But then I found out that you can only do that so many times, it was a slippery slope. I was headed the wrong direction. But Lipscomb being a private kind of small Christian school, especially in this time, I mean, it's I think a little bit more lenient now. But in 2004, it was very Church of Christ. That's how I grew up, was Church of Christ. That's something I left out. I was raised Church of Christ. If you don't know anything about Church of Christ, it's very Southern conservative upbringing Christianity. It's like Southern Baptist, but more conservative than that because we're not even allowed to have musical instruments. In fact, real conservative Church of Christ will tell you that you're going to hell if you have a musical instrument. Like I literally thought I grew up thinking that if you aren't Church of Christ, you're going to hell. That's how I grew up. I swear. And Grand Bertha, she would drive that point home, My grandmother really, because she was the tip of the spear when it comes to the Church of Christ. That was, both sides. Like, that's why my parents were both Church of Christ, because they married Church of Christ. Yeah. That's how it was. My brother married Church of Christ. He's still very much, he's not, he doesn't believe everyone's going to hell that is a Church of Christ. I don't think. But he's laid off a little bit, but... That's how they were. And that that's a big part of my story because let me tell you, that'll mess you up. Because then you're thinking, you do something wrong. Am I going to hell now? Or if I do, and I knew there was forgiveness. I knew, all about that, learning about Jesus and stuff. But I grew up in a very conservative Church of Christ home. There was no alcohol in the home. There was no cussing in the home. We went to church twice on Sunday and Wednesday night Bible study. I was in youth group growing up, went on youth group trips, felt up my first girl on the youth group bus and going to some Bible camp, good times.
I would think that would be something that would be
good
sending
times.
You to hell at the Church of Christ.
On the church van. Well, at this point, that was probably 16 years old. I was already going down a road at 16. I wasn't concerned.
The writing was on the
I was
wall.
more concerned about, groping women on church buses than I was about, going to hell. No, consensually groping. I didn't. So I just grew. That's how I grew up, and so going to this, Lipscomb just kind of continued that, deal, and I really think that's why, like, my parents wanted me to go there. Like, even growing up, Church of Christ, it's like where we were at River Chase Church of Christ, which great people. I don't want to give the wrong idea. Great people. My own, conception of it probably made it. I fantasized. I made it worse in my head.
And there's been some generations that have come in probably since then.
Since then, it's gotten a little bit more
lightened up, maybe a little bit.
Maybe some. Yeah. It was funny though, because I would, up until she passed away, my grandbertha, sweet grandbertha, she was the best thing in my life, best person in my life ever. Really, really close to her. And she'd seen me go through the gamut, so it was like, we come from this real Church of Christ family, and, if you are doing something, if you are sinning or whatever, you're definitely not talking about it. Well, let me tell you something. Between me and my dad, we really blew the doors open on that whole situation, because we made it real, apparent what we were doing. But she stuck by, she was there with me, always supported me. It was funny because when I left Church of Christ, which I'll get to this, I ended up getting away from the Church of Christ, and it really happened in college, is when it kind of started. I stopped going to church. But I would get, when Grandbertha found out I wasn't going to church, for a while I just had to lie and tell her I was. Yeah, I'm attending every Sunday. Yeah, it's great. Preachers, we don't call them pastors in Church of Christ. That's a sin too, by the way. Preachers. Preacher, and they always have Bible verses to back it up, because it says in blah, blah, Mark 17:30, do not call pastor of the, they always have some kind of, what this is off topic, but it's on topic, but what their reasoning for the musical instruments thing is?
What?
Because there's a Bible verse that talks about how you make music in your heart. There's something that talks about, like, you worship from your heart or make music in your heart. And I've always been told, when asked what the music instrument thing was, that was what I was always told. It was some verse about making music with it. So they took that as you weren't allowed to, even though it talks about instruments in the Bible all the time.
So do they have any kind of music?
They sing
acapella?
Acapella, yeah.
Okay.
And usually songs from the late 1700th century. Okay. So see if I can think of one. On Jordan's stormy banks, my brother sang that at the Lads to Leaders convention. 1994. You're gonna love this. I need to find the photos. I was only 5 years old. My brother's competing in it was in the 90s. It could have been 96, 97 maybe. Yeah, he was competing in the lead singer, song leader, worship leader competition. So he sang on Jordan's Stormy Banks. Now, do you have a
good voice, or is it just your older brother that got that nabbed that?
Yeah, I've been told I've got a decent voice. I can play the guitar. I can sing a little bit.
Well, of course you would play the guitar because you were the reprobate.
Right? Yeah, God forbid. Right? This is my way of
Of course, you picked up a musical
I'm learning the guitar,
instrument.
guys. You'll see. Send me to hell. No, but elementary algebra. That's where. No.
Yeah.
It all comes back to remedial algebra for me. No. So I'm in Lipscomb, right? And like I said, it's Church of Christ. That's how I had grown up. It was a very conservative Church of Christ. And Lipscomb was a Church of Christ college. So even though I talked my best friend in high school who was Catholic into going with me, because he wasn't doing so great on the
ACT
side because he was dyslexic, and he's legitimately dyslexic. His name's David Smedick. He was a really good football player. We're like best friends in high school, really close. He was a really good football player, but he couldn't play football in college because his English class that he needed to take was like worse than elementary algebra.
Oh, man.
It was like, it was funny. We would used to get his research papers out and read them. We'd smoke a little, devil's lettuce, and then get David's research papers out. Me and my buddy Jason sit there and just read them because they were just so the way he would use the different words to describe. Because people think dyslexia is just seeing things backwards.
Yeah,
like saying, "Oh, claw says slaw," but it's more than that. It's different than that. It's like they just don't know which words to use to fit here. Like he would always see, a hatchback vehicle. Like what a hatchback is, and he would call him a hunchback. Every time he would see one. So, look at that Volkswagen hunchback. Oh, he drives that green hunchback over there. It's just things like that. So then imagine a term paper, a college term paper where he's basically, copying things directly from the internet, because he doesn't know what else to do. And he's still getting the words so wrong. Sad. Yeah. Sad, but really, really fun for us to enjoy. And he would kill me and act like he's still put my papers back, But great guy. Yeah, great guy. Really tough dude. Got in a lot of fights with that guy. Not against, a couple against him, but really, really good. He was like that friend that, didn't have to know what was going on. He always
was just
had
in
your
it. He
back.
was down. Yeah.
But yeah, so I talk him because he didn't have anywhere to go, and I'm like, "Well, you should come to Lipscomb with me, dude." And
really
he's
cool.
Catholic, going to this Church of Christ school, and so that's the environment we're in, and you couldn't. There it was very strict. It wasn't like there weren't fraternities at all. We actually had social clubs, is what they were called. I did join a social club.
What was it? Do you remember?
Delta Tau.
But they have frat
names, but they're
Greek
social
letters?
clubs. They can't have fraternities because of the private school.
So what did y'all
do? Kind of. I mean, they were fun. The social clubs were fun, and there were cool people there. They, even though you weren't allowed to drink and party and stuff, like that was still going on. There were still house parties. But you could get in trouble for it. So what happened with me? See, here's where it really starts to take a turn, all right? The very first time I was ever arrested was in Nashville. It was underage consumption of alcohol. We had just gotten there like either freshman year or going into sophomore year or whatever. We were going downtown to Graham Central Station, this club, we were going to go get our club on. This is 2005, maybe 2004, 2005. I'm 19, I think, at this point, 19 or 20. We're drinking. We get pulled over, right? Because literally there's a Exxon gas station. Everybody knows this gas station now, if you know Nashville and Broadway Street or whatever. But this Exxon Tiger Mart is notorious for, cops sit there and wait and catch people coming out of that because it's like the last gas station. Great place to get cigarettes and beer and stuff before you're going to the club or whatever. So cops would just wait for people to come. Kid Rock, I think, got a DUI there. Some other big country music star names got DUIs there. We didn't know that about the Tiger Mart. We were just coming out of the Tiger Mart, young kids, 19, 20, and little did we know, cops are just, these guys are definitely drunk and and sure enough, we don't even make it a block. We go like right next to it. Boop, we're pulled over. I wasn't driving. I was in the back of the vehicle. But we were all, underage consumption of alcohol, and I had to pee. I remember I had to pee so bad. And they wouldn't let me do it. They couldn't do it. I kept telling the cops, I was like, I'm going to pee myself. Like, they're like, you got to hold it. He was like, literally, that's a church right there, and that's a government building. I can't let you pee right here. So I had to, my bladder hurt so bad first time going to jail. I could barely walk when I got out of the cop car. I remember just trying to get into the station. It was terrible. And then we get there and there's 2 hookers they brought in and one of them's peed themselves. And I remember thinking, at least I'm not that one. You know, you can't go to jail the first time with pee pants because then you got to change, you know, you got to ask for pants. They got to give you like county pants and you're wearing orange pants when everybody else is in their normal clothes. It's not what you want to do. Yeah, so I was tough enough to hold it in. So first time going to jail. That was kind of where it started. It happened there at Lipscomb. And so I get out of jail. It was the first time I'd been arrested ever. So it's pretty lenient. You know, you do something called pretrial. You're literally out in a few hours. I mean, once you're processed, it doesn't take long. You're out. I think I was there maybe 12 hours. And I had class the next morning. So I had to, you know, get out and go to class. And I remember when I got out, they just let you out, you know, I'm like downtown. I don't know. This is before the Uber days and all that, you know, so I didn't know which way to walk. I didn't know what, you know, and I talked to someone and he's like, that bus right there will take you pretty close to it. So I get on, he gives me $1 to ride the bus. I get on the bus and there was a mentally handicapped guy that everybody knew at Lipscomb. His name's Billy, and everybody knew Billy. You know, mentally disabled dude, really great, nice, funny guy that everyone knew Billy. You know, and he was janitorial services. He would clean buildings and stuff. And Billy's right there on the bus with me. So he's riding the bus on his way into work, and I'm sitting right there next to Billy, just getting out of jail, going to Lipscomb too. You know, so I got to go and talk with Billy on my way. But I made it back to class, and Lipscomb didn't find out about that. You know. Now, of course, my parents did, so that started, you know, round 1 of, all right, Evan, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Headed the wrong direction. You know, your brother's not doing this. Why are you? You know, your brother's met a nice young lady, and she's blah 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 blah. You know, and so yeah, then it just gets worse from here. So there were parties, you know, and I literally in high school remember like partying harder than a lot of these people at Lipscomb had ever partied. And I just mean like, you know, having used marijuana or having, you know, drank before. A lot of them are experiencing this for their first time in college because they were raised in homes that were very
legalistic,
strict, and they were all Church of Christ people, you know, but they were wanting to let loose a little too, you know. So some of these social clubs would have, you know, house parties or whatever. And this is how lame it was because literally the school, the dean, you know, they had someone snitching. You know, anytime groups of people would come back to the dorms drunk or whatever, if the wrong person was on RA or resident advisor that night or whatever and sees people coming in that have clearly been drinking or whatever, they would go snitch and get someone. This is how dumb it was, right? So somehow the dean had heard about this party going on, right? And you know, whenever I'm at these parties, they're fun house parties. Get a keg, you know, everybody's drink, harmless fun, right? But I was always kind of the one to, you know, I would always be the one that either had weed or, you know, I was the guy to go, you know, I never smoked weed. Go talk to Evan. Evan, I'm sure has some marijuana on him, or Evan's got this, or, you know, I was that guy. Oh, you don't know how to do a keg stand? Here, let me show you how to do a keg. You know, it was just stuff like that you didn't, you know. So at these parties, I would be very, you know, I would be partying pretty, you know, I was noticeable. I stood out at these parties, right? And everybody knew me as kind of a fun guy. Well, of course, my name gets brought up, right? When the dean starts questioning. So he figures out which social club he thinks it is, and he's starting to question people. They're bringing people into the office over a keg party in college, right? God. Trying to ruin people's, you know, college careers.
Over a keg.
No one even got in trouble. Like, cops weren't called. There wasn't, just this dean.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do, and he wants to go get a bunch of students in trouble for going to a keg party, you know?
Yeah.
So my name had come up, and, you know, so he calls me in the office, right? And he says, look, we know you were there, blah, blah, your name's been mentioned, you know. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I was there, you know. And so I start just taking the fall for everything. I'm like, yeah, I was drinking. Yeah, I was there, you know. And he says, all right, can you show me where this house is at that you were part of? We think we have a decent idea, but we're not 100% sure. I want you to go with me. Would you go with me in the car? And I'm going to take you to an area where I think it was at. And do you think you could, like, direct me back to where this party was? And I'm like, okay, first of all, is that legal? Do students ride in the dean's private car like that to go, was that feels weird,
Right.
Feels like there should be a third party here. So I don't know, but I'll get in your car, Dean Wilson, or that was actually his name, Dean Wilson. Wow, look at me. I get in his car and I go, and here's the thing about it, is I knew exactly where the house was, but I didn't want to get these people in trouble. I wasn't going to snitch on them because I'm not that way.
Because snitches get stitches.
That's right. See? And so he ends up even driving. I take him all the way to this mall, Cool Springs Mall. It's not even near. He's like, "Are you sure this is over? I'm pretty sure we were told it was in this neighborhood." Blah. I was like, honestly, Dean, I was pretty drunk, and when you're drinking, unfortunately, you can't remember things. I just kept playing on that, And then he takes me to the house.
Nailed it.
He parked out there. He's like, "You sure this isn't it? Because this is so and so's house. He's in a social club, and we're pretty sure this is where the party was at." I was like, I know for a fact. I don't remember which house it was, but I know it wasn't that one.
Yeah.
And it was, all the guys. So I'm the only one that gets in trouble from that party. Even the guys who were hosting the party even came up and said, were like thanking me for not ratting them out because they can kick you out of college for this. I got put on academic probation or something, So at that point, my parents were like, all right, I kind of wanted to go home already at this point, but they were pretty insistent on maybe you need to be back home because I'd also gotten arrested one more time after that in Nashville for underage consumption. So that's 2 times arrested. I had this party incident. It's not going great in college. And so I go back home. And I told myself I wanted to continue college. I went to UAB. I wanted to do exercise science. I did kind of have aspirations, but I just knew school just wasn't for me. So when I get back, I get into personal training, and I'm working at a gym, at a friend's gym in Birmingham. That's going good. I really liked fitness, and I told my parents, I was like, well, I'm already doing what I would do with a college degree. Why don't I just get out of? Why don't I just stop college? Right. And they're like, well, we really want you to finish, but but I convinced them to let me at least stop, and so I quit college and I'm just working, and then randomly, so I end up during this time, I at that point is when I really was introduced to opiates, and that was my thing. Opiates were what I had a problem with. Drinking, stuff like that, I never really had a problem with it. Opiates are what I had a problem with. But to preface that, I skipped over this part, but when I was in high school, my dad actually had a bad drug and alcohol problem. Mm-hmm. And this was the Church of Christ home, that I was describing. I was 16. We come home from a family vacation. My dad didn't go on that vacation. He had told my mom that he had some golf outing with his brothers, which was weird because he hated his brothers. So it was weird that they were going golfing all of a sudden. So we come home and he's not there, right? He's not there. There's actually bloody towels all in the bath. There was blood everywhere. We didn't know what happened. And it turns out that he was in Antigua, South America, right? And the way he got to Antigua, South America was he said that he was helping his aunt who had a bad cocaine problem, which was true. She did. And also during this time, my dad was making really good money. He had started a company with some guys. So we were doing good, really comfortable, always had what I needed and wanted, had more than others for sure, was definitely blessed. And he, we noticed with him, he was just my dad was always kind of the crazy, wild, fun one, right? But he would have moments of explode, not exploding, but just anger, random anger, or explode, and because there's no alcohol allowed in a Church of Christ home or no drinking, we knew that wasn't it, right? Because that's not allowed in the home. But so we find out, he's gone, and at this time, my brother's going to college, so he's leaving, going to Lipscomb because he was 2 grades ahead of me, and it's just me and my mom there. And, he's been gone for weeks at this time. She's still playing off this story that he's helping his aunt.
Does she know where he's at?
So she does know what's going on, but she's not telling me. She was trying to protect me by lying to me about what was going on. And he was basically just down there with her and he was putting her in a rehab center. There's a rehab center in Antigua, South America, owned by Eric Clapton, or Central America, I believe it's Central America actually, owned by Eric Clapton, and it's a really nice rehab center. So Eric Clapton, if you don't know, is a bad drug addict, and has since then gotten sober and helped a bunch of people and has this really nice, expensive rehab in Antigua. And that's the rehab my dad put my aunt in, right? But my dad went with her and just wanted to be in Central America, and found out the reason is because the cocaine's better in Central America, So he had a bad cocaine problem. And I found that out by listening to the voice messages on the house phone. So this is back in the house phone days. I knew how to check the voice messages. I knew the password. I checked the messages, and I hear my dad telling my mom, like, hey, I am putting my aunt in rehab down here, but honestly, I think I need to go to rehab too. I got a bad problem with cocaine. And I remember hearing that, and then I was shocked. I mean, this was no cussing in the home, no alcohol, none of that. To
an extreme thing, like
you're doing cocaine. I didn't, I was never exposed to anything like that.
Now, was your mom aware of that? Did she know that?
Yeah, she knew at this time what was going on. Yeah. She had known some things were up prior to this, obviously, being his wife. There were just some things. I think she had actually found some cocaine at the,
Bless her heart. And then she's trying to keep it from y'all.
Yeah. Lying to us. She just just wants everything to be okay. Well,
she probably didn't want your view of your dad to change either, or let it stress you out. Or
for sure, she just definitely wanted everything to be okay.
Yeah,
she still can be like that. And so I confront her. I'm like, hey, this is. And I remember when I found that out. I remember this feeling of telling myself it was a little bit of relief too, because I was like, oh, now I have an excuse for me to do whatever I want to do. Right. That's the feeling I had. I was like, I can literally do whatever I want to do, and they can't say shit.
Yeah.
So all the drinking and partying I've been doing in high school and stuff, and just the fun that high school students have, I don't feel bad about that anymore. Oh yeah, by the way, church is, that's where I was at. Like, Church of Christ, that's a big hoax. Forget these people. This is all hypocrisy. Everybody's hypocrite. This is all a lie. I was mad,
Which is a bummer, because I think a lot of people probably have that impression of the church, not just Church of Christ, just church in general.
Yeah, and then something goes wrong. And it's because, the way it was portrayed, like I said, it was because they came off so holier than thou, and so everybody's going to hell except us, and better not be sinning,
Yeah.
And if you are, don't tell anybody about it. What kind of messed up is that? If you're going through something, better not find out about it, because, that's how you go to hell. Is when Becky Becky at the potluck hears about your drinking problem. That's what makes you go to hell. Yeah, that's literally kind of how it was.
Yeah.
So everybody just kept everything hidden, right? So this is happening while I'm in high school. My brother's gone. It's just me and my mom. I was in and out. I would go live with some friends of the family at the time, sometimes when things would just get too crazy at the home, because my dad would be calling. And so at this time, he was cheating on my mom. We knew that was happening at this point. We knew she had found a bunch of stuff, like a Rolex that he had bought some other girl. So, all this stuff, he's selling stock in his company, cashing out a bunch of, just blowing through money, this and that. So my mom has to divorce him, which was another big thing in Church of Christ, because they're very much the only reason for divorce, according to the Bible, is adultery. And so unless that happens, you don't divorce. Right. So even with all this that she was going through, I remember even Graham Bertha, my mom's mom, was still very much like, this is your husband. Better figure it out.
Yeah.
Until the adultery part, that kind of gave her justification to divorce him. And also it was a financial move. She wanted to protect, the money that we did have before he spent it all. So she does that, and I remember he had to come back from Central America to sign the divorce papers. It was literally in and out. Just shows up at the house real quick one day. We hadn't seen him in months. Shows up, signs the divorce papers, and walks out and leaves, And so at this time after the divorce, my brother was writing him off. He wouldn't answer his calls. He wouldn't really talk to her. My dad would call and bother him and threaten to take him out of college, even though he wasn't paying for it, and all this stuff just to mess with him. And he just wasn't. My brother was the way he handled it was by just cutting him out of his life. and he was in college, he was doing his thing, and that's how he dealt with it. And meanwhile, like, I'm at the home, I'm with my mom, I'm stuck in the middle of it, you know? And I was also very close with my dad. We were really close. We were both into motorcycles and cars. We liked the same things, you know? So we had that relationship too. My friends liked him a lot. He would take me and my buddies fishing all the time and just fun stuff, you know?
Just a larger than life kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was also hurt by it. I was very hurt. I was, you know, but they were just kind of writing him off. My brother was writing him off. My mom divorcing him and was starting to just kind of stop answering and communicating with him. And I was the only one that would still communicate with him. And I don't, you know, I don't know why. Part of me was afraid to not answer the phone. I remember that. I was always very fearful of my dad, especially when he was like that. I was always, you know, was just kind of raised that way. So there was some fear to it. But I also just like, I would pick up the phone. I would talk to him. Even when he was going through all his crazy stuff and, you know, talking out of his mind, I would still talk to him. He ends up coming back to Birmingham. And
what's the span of time?
This is happening. I remember my 18th birthday. So I was like 15, 16 when this started. On my 18th birthday, I remember that was towards the end. So it was a couple of years, you know?
Yeah.
Like my high school years, basically.
So this is essentially sending you off to college.
Yeah, I hadn't gone yet.
Yeah.
But I was about to graduate and everything. Graduation was coming up. So this was like sophomore, junior, senior year. And so he comes back to Birmingham and he's living at the Winfrey Hotel. You remember the Winfrey Hotel at the Galleria? It was a nice luxury hotel, you know? That's where he was living. So he had got him a nice suite up there, you know, penthouse suite. He was big time, you know, he was buying all these cars, and he bought me a BMW Z3 convertible in high school. He gave me a Rolex. He would give me wads of cash. I was like loving it whenever. And so I would go see him at the Winfrey, and, you know, it was suck spending time with him and hanging out with him because he was getting worse and worse and crazier. But he would give me things like this, you know, motorcycles, scooters. He was buying all kinds of stuff. Limousines. He bought a limousine. He would ride around in a limousine because he got to where he just wasn't driving anymore. And now he's just riding around.
So he had a limousine driver?
Yeah. Actually, he bought a few limousines and this little warehouse from Excalibur Limousine Company. It was a big limousine company there in Birmingham. The reason he bought it was because he had gotten a motorcycle and a scooter at Yamaha, or Big Number One Yamaha in Homewood. And it's still there. That motorcycle store is still there. He loved motorcycles, but he didn't have anywhere to keep them.
Yeah.
So he buys this motorcycle and a scooter for some reason. He got into scooters. He was buying 2 or 3 scooters.
When
like
you say scooter,
metropolitan, like funny. Think of Italy, you know, riding around on like scooters like that.
Vespa,
they were becoming a Vespa. They were becoming popular then, and he loved them. So he bought these Vespas, and so he realizes, oh yeah, I live at the Winfrey. I don't know where I'm going to keep these. He walks down the street, sees this warehouse, calls the number on it. It's like, hey, I want to buy your building. And the guy's like, the only way you're buying this building is if you buy all the limousines in it, right? So he goes and he looks, and there's like 5 or 6 limousines, and he's like, I'll do it, you know? And so he gets these limousines, and he's got a driver driving around, and he's got his scooters in there, and living at the Winfrey, you know? So this is the kind of things that, you know, that he was doing, and was getting worse and worse. And so I would still see him. I would still go and see him. And then one time, the last time I was like, I meet him at this Chick-fil-A. He is getting worse and worse. He's like 50, losing weight, lost 50 pounds. He's getting real thin. He's talking about dying. He's talking about how he's about to go to the Bahamas, which is where he's going to die. That's what he kept saying. And he was telling me that, basically saying bye, I'm about to go to the Bahamas. And whether he was really going to do that or not, we don't know. It was definitely a cry for help. And it was definitely, he was probably going to go to the Bahamas, and whether or not he died there, who knows, but that was where he was at. That was what he was wanting to do. And so it took me to this Chick-fil-A, and it was bad. He was talking about stuff like that. He was being really loud and just, causing scenes everywhere he'd go. He would like we go to get gas in the limousine, and he would like make me get out and pump the gas, right? And to make me pump the gas instead of the limo driver. He'd be like, See, now you ever pump gas in a limousine before? Now you can tell your friends you pumped gas into a limousine. I'm like, okay. He gave the cashier like $500 at the gas station. It's just like losing it.
Yeah.
So I go home. I remember I was like, got to a point where I was like, I
can't do this anymore.
That's right. And he was changing hotels. This was a pivotal moment here. He wanted me to bring that BMW he bought me, and we got the top down, little BMW, and he has to get his stuff from the Winfrey. I think he was being kicked out, honestly. Is I think what was happening. I think he called too much of a scene or brought too many strippers back or something. But he's like needing to move, right? And he insists on driving. So we drive from the Winfrey to this other hotel downtown Birmingham, and he's flying, driving like a maniac, cutting in between semi-trucks, just really dangerous. And I remember like the whole time I was like, this is the last time I'm doing this. This is the last time I'm doing this. I'm done with this. It's over.
Yeah.
We get to the hotel and he says, don't tell anyone where I'm at. Right. And I'm like, okay, I won't. He's like, I'm serious. Don't tell anyone where I'm at. And I was like, all right. And so I go right back home to my mom and I tell him exactly where he was at. And I said, this is, I was like, why isn't anybody helping him? That's what I remember saying. I was frustrated. I was hurt. I was like, he needs help. Right. Why isn't anybody helping him? We're just doing nothing. That's the solution to this. Is just do nothing. I knew nothing about interventions. I knew nothing about drug abuse and addiction and all that at the time. I just knew that here's this guy, who's struggling and he needs help.
Yeah.
So let's get him some help.
Right.
That's what he needs.
Yeah.
And I was mad. I was yelling at my mom and I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. I was like, I've been the one who's been keeping all the attention off of y'all because I'm seeing him. If I stop seeing him and talking to him, he's going to be coming after y'all again, trying to talk to y'all. And if I see him, then that keeps, so they were glad that I was, being the person that was, interfering.
Right.
But I told her, I said, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm not seeing him. I'm not answering his calls anymore. You need to call some people and we need to get him some help.
Yeah.
So she said, I just don't know what to do. And I was like, we need to call family, call some, So she calls a bunch of, her brothers, his brothers, some other people. And sure enough, they go down there. They tell the hotel what was going on, and they give us a room right beside him. I wouldn't go. So that was the one thing. I was like, I'm not going.
Yeah.
There was this guy who was like a grandfather in my life at the time. His name was Tom Allen, and he was there along with us through the whole thing. And he had struggled with alcoholism, knew a little bit about it, but he was just kind of there for us. And he was kind of heading this thing up at this point. And he was like, you sure you don't want to come down here? Blah, blah. I was like, I don't want to be anywhere near there. He told me not to say anything. As soon as he finds out that I've said something, he's going to be pissed.
Right.
And sure enough, he was. So they get the hotel room next to his, wait for him to come back. And my phone starts blowing up and it's him. And he's leaving messages like, I want it all back. All the money, the cars, the watches, the blah, just calling. You let me down. You betrayed me and blah, blah, blah. And, I remember listening to the voicemails and how hard it was to not answer or not, But then I get a call from Tom Allen several hours later. And Tom's like, hey, man, you need to come down here. And I was like, Tom, I really don't want to come down there. And he's like, you need to come down here. He's like, it's probably going to be the last time you see your dad for a while. And I was like, all right. So I get down there and the cops are there, and they've kind of got him surrounded. And it was really sad.
Yeah.
It was really sad. They had him in handcuffs. They had the cops around. Everybody's kind of around him, and he's just talking about how he wants a Bible. I just want to go to church. I just need a Bible and get me to church. And he's just out of his mind. And I remember just people looking at him like, here's this crazy person, But, that was my dad. I knew he wasn't crazy.
Right.
He was just going through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And so they get him to UAB, the psych ward, to detox, and then he ends up being court ordered to go to rehab. And he goes to this really nice rehab in Minnesota called Hazelden. He was there for 3 months. He does the 3-month program. We had to go up there for a family week. It was a really nice rehab. There's a lot of celebrities and pro athletes that go there. I think Ben Affleck had been there. Some other people had been there before. It's really well known. And we had to go up there for a family week and do the family week. It was cool, They have you go through a week program, but you go through with random patients of the rehab that you're assigned to. So
the
you're
family
not,
does?
Yeah, you're not.
Okay.
So like I was paired up with a guy, my brother was paired up with, and this is like, I was paired up with a dude who's like 60 years old and is an alcoholic at Hazelden in the program.
Yeah.
Right. And we were all paired up with a resident of the program, my mom would be paired up with one of the females there or whatever. And they did that because you went through like this. It was really cool. You went through this counseling therapy thing together with this completely strange, alcoholic, drug addict person, so that they could see the harm that it causes the family. Right? They could hear this without it being your family.
Yeah.
So it was actually very limited time that we actually got to spend with my dad.
With your dad.
We'd see him sometimes. We'd go to family. There were times where we could see him, but it wasn't about that, So it goes through that. He ends up getting out of there, and he ends up remarrying my mom, and he's been sober since. He's back in my brother's life. He's a really good granddad, a great dad. I'm having steaks with him later,
Yeah.
So he's back, he's been back in our family, and everything's great. Seemingly, there's been some, typical life stuff, but he's been sober. He hasn't done cocaine or drugs since then.
When he was at that place, so he was willing to go, or was that still kind of forced in that moment?
It was forced.
But at least it took.
Yeah, and that's
because
the point.
A lot of times you hear people who go to these places and they leave, they spend all this money, they leave, and they get right back into. I want to go back to something you said. You were talking about how you said it was really sad to see your dad in that position, handcuffed, and then people around is like looking at him like he's a crazy person. It just kind of gives you some perspective on when you see people who are struggling with stuff like that. It's not always a crazy person. They're not always crazy. Because your dad was successful. He was a business guy. He was larger than life. He was a friend. He was a father, all these things. But it just shows you kind of what drugs and alcohol, it was drugs, but can do. Yeah. But you saw the person behind it.
That's right. And people that didn't know him or didn't know who he was wouldn't have known that. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference in him and a homeless person on the street that's talking out of their mind. And that's the thing. And then when you get to rehab and you see the people that are there, like the people that were patients at this rehab in Hazelden, the CEO of Delta Airlines spoke one night, and he was a bad cocaine addict.
But it brings them down to the same level, though. So that's where it's just kind of, you almost kind of can have some compassion even for those out on the street that you're thinking, oh, they're just crazy. Like, you don't know where they came from, like what their story was prior to the addiction.
If you want to really be humbled, and see something unique, go to an AA meeting. Right? Go to an AA meeting and I think I went with you to one.
Didn't we? I went with you to one. It was like that
church
service.
We went to the church,
but it was kind of in that style.
Tied to that, But when you go to an AA meeting and you hear these people talk, then when you get to know them after the meeting, you find out that they're Dr. So-and-so or an attorney or this person that's CEO of this business, or you find out who these people are. It really does show, we're all human beings that all struggle with our own thing, right? And we forget that a lot, And I didn't know what I was doing, getting him help. I didn't know, I didn't know what intervention was. I didn't know what drug addiction really was. I just knew here was someone that needed, we have family, we have people here, why isn't anything being done? Something needs to be done, and look what happened from it. So if I would have written him off and said, screw you, maybe he would be dead in the Bahamas or somewhere else, or not in our life, or not, So after that happened, I was when he came back in to our lives, I remember being really, really mad. I was mad at my mom for letting him back in so quickly. I was mad at, he was just trying to step right back into I'm your dad and go back to telling you what to do. I remember me and my brother being real mad about that, we didn't have much respect for him, we didn't. And I was also very, very butthurt because he, the last thing he was saying to me on the phone, which I have the voice messages still on the phone at this time, were just horrible things to me. About how I've let him down, I've betrayed him, I've ruined his life, I've done all this stuff. That was the last thing said, So then we get to rehab and he gets to sober up and he gets to thinking again straight and, and he, I don't think, I was hoping he was going to have more of an appreciation for what I had just done for him. That's what I was looking at it as. I was waiting for hey, all that stuff I said to you on the phone, that was not me, man. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping me. Thank you for getting us here.
And he knows he left those voicemails. Does he have that?
I believe so.
Yeah,
He definitely knows he wasn't great to me, but I also, that's most drug addicts are very selfish and self-centered, and that's, the nature of it. So I was hurt by that. I was waiting for the thank you, My brother had done a lot of healing because he had written this letter that he was advised to write while he was in Hazleton by the counselor that he was seeing. We would all see counselors one-on-one, and the counselor told him to write this letter, and he writes this big long letter, and apparently that went well. So they were kind of patching things up, and the way I was going to handle it was I was going to I'll show you what this feels like,
Yeah.
And then I started to show him what it felt like. And that's, where my life took a turn. So I was very open to drugs after that. I would try anything. I would do anything. I started doing opiates, particularly specifically Oxycontin in my early 20s while I was personal training and working at this gym. I was like personal training and, this health fitness guy on the gym floor and then snorting Oxy in the back, I'd come out and train the next client.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I did it, I was like, I'm going to do this every day for the rest of my life. This stuff's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's, that was my thing. Opiates that was my thing. Right. So I start down this path of addiction to opiates, and I end up going to rehab. Not long after that, I'd start, addicted to Oxy. I knew things were bad. I knew things needed to change. And I end up calling my dad, and I tell him, hey, I'm addicted to opiates. I need to get some help. They take me to Bradford, this 30-day rehab center that's here in Warrior, Alabama. And because my insurance would cover 30 days, that's how rehabs really work, is what kind of insurance do you have, That determines how long you're going to be there, not how bad you are or how sick you are. It's like, what can you afford to do here? So I have, insurance that'll cover 30 days. And so at the time, the 30-day house, if you were going to the 30-day program, it was also where people that were active duty military that were sent to rehab, struggling with something, alcohol or drugs, were at. So the military had them in there for 30 days. The civilians had them in there for 30 days. So they would have military and civilians together if you were in the 30-day program.
Yeah.
And you lived in the same house, and so I got real close with people that were active duty military while I was there at rehab. All right. And when I left the rehab, that's when I wanted to join the military. So I'd gotten to know a lot of them. I'd heard a lot of them talk about it. I had friends that were in. So I get out of there and I joined the Army. And that's whenever I decided to go into the Army. I'm thinking, I'm done. I'm off this stuff. I'm going to get my life back. I'm going to do something different, change pace, get out of here. So I joined the Army. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be in combat. I wanted to do some job that was combat related. I wanted to do whatever I could do. The most badass thing that I could do is what I wanted to do. So I got to join the Army, join as an infantryman. And I did really good. I loved the military. I loved being an infantryman. I did well in basic and in infantry school. And I was offered a chance to go to Special Forces selection and go to airborne school while I was there in basic, because I did this thing called SOPSI, which is Special Operations Preparation and Conditioning. They offered me the chance to do that because I had a really good physical fitness score and I was doing good in basic. And so I go do that, and I went to airborne school, went to Special Forces selection. It was good. I was doing really, really good. I was in great shape, loved the military. And then, end up deploying to Afghanistan. I'm off opiates, I'm off, hadn't done them since that rehab time. And then, boom, get injured in Afghanistan, right? So I was like, we deployed to Afghanistan. We're there a month. I'm in this truck, in this convoy, and we hit an IED. And it killed one of our guys. I ended up getting injured my ankle, this and that. And then so, what's the solution for pain, right? It's pain pills.
Right.
So I get back, started taking opiates again. And this time it was, I was able to finish the deployment. I did all that, we ended up getting back home and they put me on pain management. So they're giving me really heavy amounts of opiates. And I knew what I was doing. I knew I shouldn't have been doing that and taking them. And I knew the pain wasn't so bad that I needed to be doing this. It was just the military solution. And so I was, I felt justified in doing it. And I was like, well, I'm getting it prescribed as a doctor, blah, 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 blah. Right. And but I just knew that I was basically just using it as an excuse to do opiates again. And so from that time is when it really kicked off, like, now it's going to be pretty bad. Now things are going to get bad, because it was like I had gotten back from Afghanistan. I'd gotten back from combat. I had, I didn't want to think that I had PTSD. That was kind of the mindset. We were in a real tough unit, tough mindset. You just didn't talk about those things, But because I was injured in combat, I had to go through this little thing when we got back to Fort Hood, where if you were injured in combat, you had to go to this 2 weeks of this counseling thing. It's basically the way the Army just checks another box, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you were blown up. You need to go to 2 weeks of this therapy thing.
Yeah.
And basically they did acupuncture. They'd stick needles in your ears and, civilians that were just like poking you and prodding you. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just there to, talk about my feelings while getting acupuncture is what it felt like the PTSD treatment was. But I also didn't believe that I had any kind of issues like that. And I sure wasn't going to talk about it with anybody, God forbid.
Do you feel like you're suffering from an injury, your ankle, you were blown up, so you're going in for that, kind of what happened to you. Did you have any issues with losing one of your fellow soldiers? Was that something that played a part in it too?
Well, so I remember when that happened. We were only there a month. The call comes in. The reason that we had to go out there, so an IED had gone off and hit a convoy, and blew up this truck that had our guys in it and killed one of the guys in that truck. And we got called out to go pull security and help. So when something like that happens, they call out for QRF, which is Quick Reaction Force. And Quick Reaction Force is just a set of trucks and a crew that is assigned to QRF for that period of time. So it's like they would, every 3 days, it's this group of people. Every 3 days, it's this group of people. And it rotates. So you do your turn on QRF. And it was our turn on QRF. So I was on QRF for that day when that happened. So I remember the call came in and our platoon sergeant said, hey, guys, we got to, we're getting a call for QRF. We got to go out here. We have a KIA. And I remember thinking, I knew it. I heard KIA before, but what does that mean? Like, I even turned to my friend. I was like, KIA, like that, it just wasn't hitting me. And he goes, someone's been killed. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And I remember that was that moment where I was like, oh, this is
real.
This is real.
Yeah.
People can die over here. People can get killed.
Yeah.
And then I started experiencing, we lost more people throughout the time. We were, had all kinds of crazy stuff happen in different situations. And, you're seeing, death firsthand, bodies blown up and burned. And just, it just didn't even feel like you just go through, like I didn't even feel like I was, really there.
Yeah.
Like I was just, I have a way of dealing with things.
Like disassociating.
Yeah, disassociate and just, it's just something you go through and you deal with and you do it, and you try to do these things without thinking too much about, what you're actually seeing and witnessing and dealing with. You can't really let emotions come into play there. So in terms of losing someone that was like close to me, no, but then in terms of just dealing with death like that, period, that's kind of where things, would happen. And I was experiencing, dreams, nightmares, this and that, waking up, just stuff that, should probably happen from being in something like that. But driving was also another big one because I did a lot of driving over there after I got injured. And when you drive over there, it's very aggressive. You're in a combat situation. You can get blown up. You're looking out for this and that and being shot at. And so when I got home, I was driving like that. I remember I would just get on the interstate and just fly everywhere I went, just not even thinking about it, just flying, driving real aggressively. And I got my license got suspended. I got so many tickets, my license ended up getting suspended because of that. And that's when things started, like, couldn't be in crowded places. I didn't like going to places. We went to some baseball game and they do fireworks and like you're under the table, under the ground. I mean, hell, even after I'd gotten out of the Army and was back working, my first civilian job after the Army doing apartment stuff, your lovely husband owned a gym right above my office where he would drop 200-pound dumbbells. And the first day, no one told me about the gym. I didn't know that there was a gym that was above the office. I didn't know that pieces of ceiling tile were going to fall onto my desk every now and then whenever Scott would drop his dumbbells. So the first time that happened, I was like under the table. Like, what the I I was like telling
under
people in the staff, like, get that. What are y'all doing standing up still? Idiots. And they're like, it's just the gym upstairs, bro. So like things like that would happen.
Yeah.
And that's when you kind of start realizing, like, okay, maybe I do have things that I should deal with or talk about or, see what's going on here. But the way that I dealt with it was abusing opiates.
Yeah.
And I had always done that, and it allowed me to just cruise through life and, not think about those things and not deal with those things. And I always had that, I always had that as my thing. But like any drug, it just always gets worse.
What were the effects of it?
So like opiates, very strong opiates. So if you talk to an opiate addict, if you talk to someone that doesn't care for opiates, doesn't like them, they always say, oh, I don't like them, man. It makes me nauseous or sleepy or feel kind of sick to my stomach. I just can't stand them. You talk to an opiate addict, they're like, opiates give me energy. I like them. I could do, some opiates and go work out or go on a run or, they made me more sociable and energetic, So it was just different. I just liked it, but it always gets progressively worse. But so anyways, this is my experience of the military now. Like I had gone and deployed, I'd done all this cool stuff, but now that I've been injured and I'm on opiates and I'm going to these PTSD classes and I had to go to this 14-day inpatient place that was kind of for PTSD and also to help me like take my medication appropriately, and because I had started abusing it and they wanted to get me back down to a dose that was manageable, I was just kind of riding out my time and I knew I wasn't going to re-enlist because I'd been injured and I was just kind of ready to get out, Yeah. And so I got out and came back to Birmingham and moved back I was stationed in Fort Hood, Texas. So I drive back to Birmingham, not knowing what I'm going to do, not knowing where, anything like that. I was in my mid-20s, I think 25, 26, maybe still fairly young, but addicted to opiates and, fresh out of combat, pretty much still a year or so removed from combat, still struggling. I come back and move back in with my parents. And, of course, Grand Bertha's living there now. So I'm back in the Church of Christ home, ready to get my life right.
Were your parents supportive of you going into the military in the beginning?
My grandmother very much was. Her husband, Willis, who I'm named after. Willis. You knew that. I think Willis Evan Slaughter is my name. Willis Vincent Bell was his name. Willis and Bertha. He was a Navy man, a radio operator in the Navy. And he smoked cigarettes. That was his one clutch, his one vice. And I remember knowing that about him and then like them being so hardcore Church of Christ. I was like, but Granddaddy smokes. He died of a stroke because he smokes. Y'all just aren't going to talk about it. Y'all just overlook that. I think he had actually quit by the time we were in his life. But he was, radio operator in the Navy. My mom was cool with it, but my dad was hesitant. He didn't. Yeah. He liked having me there. He was trying to build this relationship back with me, At this point in time, too, I had done enough before I joined the Army. I had been to rehab once already, so I think he's kind of thinking we're even, Yeah. And I'm like,
you ain't even close.
We ain't even close to even. I'll show you what even looks like. No, that was the mindset kind of I had with it, though. But so I'd gotten out. They very supportive, proud of me whenever I got in. Super, super proud of all I'd done and gone through. I'd gotten the Purple Heart over there, combat infantry badge, done a bunch of good stuff, cool stuff. I did my time in the military. It wouldn't change anything about it, Had a chance to leave Afghanistan once I got injured, turned that down, chose to just wear a boot and stay and recover there and do the whole, 12-year deployment. So like I was all about it. And I was proud of that. I was happy the time I had done in there. And so I get out, and back in their home trying to figure out what I'm going to do. And I'm, like I said, bad on opiates still. And also now taking Valium for PTSD related issues, which is really bad, especially with opiates. They're actually not supposed to be prescribed together. So I'm taking that and just kind of starting to abuse that now. It's just not going a good direction. And, but they're also like looking at it like my parents and everybody's like, oh, Evan, he's a war hero. That I had more grace, it felt like. It was like I had more, they had more patience with me and they had more understanding and, I could get away with more things because of that, And so I wasn't in any hurry to kind of like get my life going. I was just like abusing Valium and, opiates and at the house hanging out, trying to get my VA money going, didn't have much plans. But then, I start to run out of that Valium a little too soon now. Now I'm running out of that early. And that withdrawing off of benzodiazepines is one of the things that can kill you. So there's only like a couple things that you can die from the withdrawals, just from the actual physical symptoms of the withdrawals. Alcohol is one and benzos are the other. Right? So I'm, and that even really wasn't my thing, It was like, it just becomes something I started abusing now. It's like, that's what I do with prescription medication. So when I start running out with that, I know it's going to be a problem. And so I decide to steal a DEA number off of a prescription bottle that has some prescription bottles have it on it, depending if it's like a small doctor or something. They'll have the DEA number for the doctor on the prescription bottle. And I had remembered one time at one of my many visits to the doctor that you could phone in certain classification of narcotics, pain pills and benzos being in that classification. You can actually, if you're a doctor, you can just pick up the phone and call the pharmacy and call those in for patients. So I was thinking, why can't I do that? I've heard it done before. They're not going to know I'm not a doctor. I just got to give them this DEA number that I have here and give them the name off the bottle and tell them patient so-and-so needs his prescription, And Willis Evans Slaughter was about to be the patient. And so I decided to prescribe myself Valium. And you're going to love this. I'm such an idiot. I would love to be working at the DEA while this is going on, because when you call enough pharmacies and try to prescribe, like, they know.
Yeah.
As soon as you call the first one and you're like, hey, this is Dr. Mendoza. And that was his name too. Dr. Mendoza. And I need to phone in a prescription I got a patient here. I need to call in a prescription for him. They're like, okay, what's the blah, blah, blah? And they start asking and I give them the information, right? I think first few pharmacies didn't even get that far with me. They knew off the bat it wasn't real somehow, right? I didn't know, but somehow they know, okay? Well, that pharmacist then immediately alerts the DEA.
Yeah.
Because someone's trying to phone in, medication. I didn't know that. So when she said no, I just called the next pharmacy on the list, right? I'm like, oh, she's not cool. Let's see who else is on here. I call the next one. No. Call the next one. I'll get a little further. No. Call another one. Call this CVS in Hoover. Actually, it was right barely in Pelham. It was right on the city limit line on Highway 31. I call this CVS. And I say no, or they ask some questions, right? I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm getting a little further with it. But then it's we need to call you back. All right. Like, okay, that's going to be a no. So I'm kind of starting to write it off. But then I get a call back, and it's the pharmacy. And they say, hey, Dr. Mendoza. Or actually, I think I was back to patient Slaughter at this point, because it was like, what's the patient's phone number? Here's the number. And I gave them my number for them to call when the prescription was ready.
Oh,
so they call
you
me.
Gave your name.
Yeah, as the patient.
Yeah.
And because I had to be able to pick it up, right? So they call me and say, hey, we got that prescription ready for you. Your doctor called it in. You can come up here and pick it up. So I'm thinking, great, it worked, And I go up there to the CVS, and I knew enough to like look around. I mean, I was in a reconnaissance unit. I was like, let me just cruise the parking lot one time, make sure there's not some cops sitting out here, and look down the aisles of the CVS, and just no one was in that store. I swear, I looked pretty good. I didn't go around back of the pharmacy, but I did do the front of the parking lot and the aisles. And as soon as I purchase the prescription and they hand it to me, boom, a cop comes out of nowhere behind me and arrests me, right?
Oh, man.
For unlawful possession of a controlled substance, because they couldn't get me on actually prescribing the medication because I used this Wi-Fi calling app that was just some randomly assigned number. And I was like, I didn't phone it in. I'm Willis Slaughter here to pick up the prescription y'all called me and said I had it. You know, that's the role I was playing, but unlawful possession of controlled substance. But it turned out to be a blessing because my family was good friends of the DA of Shelby County at that time. He knew what I was going through, knew that I was this injured veteran, blah, blah, blah. And they have this veteran court program in Shelby County. And so I go to jail, you know, and like this arrest is, I just knew it was going to be a little bit more serious. Like, this is a felony. This one's going to be different. This isn't an overnighter. And
right. Not the 12 hours
jail.
like the, underage.
This one feels special, you know? And so take me to the city jail. And I'm thinking, oh, that's good. And they're like, oh, no, we're just taking you here before we take you to county. Like, oh
gosh.
I'm going to county jail. So I go to county, you know, and it's a couple weeks before I even see a judge, you know, and it sucks. It sucks so bad. But I was coming off all that stuff, you know, and getting sober again and like almost died from withdrawals in that county jail. Just the worst withdrawals. Didn't eat for like 14 days, was just puking. It was terrible. Just laying in that jail cell, you know, helpless. And get in front of the judge. They know a little bit about me and everything. And I'm in this veteran court program. They cared about what they were doing. They were really strict. They were, you know, but basically the program was like, all right, you do what you're supposed to do and what we tell you to do. And if you pass drug tests and all that, you'll graduate in a year. Pay your fines off. You'll be done. Felonies off your record, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, okay, cool, I can do that, you know? And this is when I really learned how powerful addiction is. Like, I've seen it in a lot of ways, but when I couldn't stay sober, knowing that using was going to send me to jail every 2 weeks, because court was every 2 weeks. So you would get called to take drug tests randomly in between there. And of course, they're going to call you. I would go and fail the drug tests. And I know that when I go to court that next Thursday, they're going to lock me up. And it's probably going to be for at least 2 weeks, because that's usually the penalty on these drug things. So I would go use drugs. And at this time, it had graduated to heroin. So I had gone from... It was just easier to get. It was cheaper. You know, you can't get prescription pain pills anymore. I started using heroin. I was introduced to it from a friend, you know. I was big on like snorting it, you know, but I was doing heroin regularly. And so I would, you know, just on the way to buy drugs, you know, you just know, all right, Thursday, you know, you're going to be going to jail for this. But do it anyways, you know?
And were you out of county at this point every like when you were having to go before?
So you'd get released.
So you were released, but you were essentially just putting yourself back
and then
in
they lock
because
you back
you're,
up. And so, I'm in and out of this county jail thing and failing drug tests, you know, and it gets to a point where basically if you continue to do that long enough, you're backing up a prison sentence, essentially. So it's like you have like a 1 year prison sentence tied to this charge. And if you don't complete the program, you're going to do a year. So it was serious enough to where it's like, I really got to get this together, you know? So that's when they, they sent me to another rehab. So I did another rehab. I was court ordered to go to a rehab while I was there. That's where I ended up doing the meth because it was a terrible, terrible rehab that was like privately owned. It was in the process of being bought from someone. There was no staff there on the weekends. I mean, literally, it was just like, we didn't even do classes really for drug stuff. It was literally the craziest experience I had ever been in. And I wasn't complaining because we were kind of doing whatever. But everybody started using there again. People would steal cars that belonged to the rehab to drive. It was in Gadsden, for Gadsden to Birmingham, just to go buy drugs and come back. That became a regular thing. Gadsden's a real bad meth area. And this one guy that was, you know, resident there asked me to take the staff van and take him to go see this girl or whatever, because he lives right down the road. He's from that area, and I knew how to steal the staff van. So, of course, I've got to do it, you know, help a buddy out. So I got the van. I take him down there, you know, he ends up getting some meth, and you know, it's like, you've never done it? You got to try it. It just never appealed to me. And I did just a little bit, like I snorted just a little bit of this stuff. And I always thought meth was like, you know, an upper, like you're going to be tweaking and bouncing, but it like makes you hallucinate, like see things, like really strong meth can do that. Like we could just be sitting here talking and I can just see someone over there, like sitting in a rocking chair, just chilling with us. And I think all of us see it, you know? And I'm fully coherent.
Right.
But I just think we all see this is going on right now. So I had done this, and I talked to someone because there were some guys there that were big time meth addicts. And I was talking to them, and I was like, dude, this is making me like really, really hallucinate. I was like, is that a normal thing? And I remember one of the guys says, it's only normal for people that are already up in the head. That's what he said. And I was like, oh, okay. So
cool.
Says a lot about me, But so I do this stuff one time, and they're at this rehab, and I start seeing people play, and we're playing paintball. I wasn't playing paintball. There were people.
The people were playing
paintball. They had paintball guns, and they were trying to shoot me with the paintball guns, right? And I remember I would run, right? I was outside, and I would run from here, this bush to this bush, and hide, right? Because I thought I was getting shot with paintball, and like I would even put my shirt up over my head sometimes and run like this. And I think I'm in a paintball game. It was the craziest thing. Someone sees what's going on. 911 gets called. Now they think Evan's having a post, war flashback is what they thought was going on, which come to find out, it sort of
kind
was.
Of was. Yeah.
It ended up being that because it wasn't long after that. That's what had initiated, this stuff had initiated that. Ambulance comes, all this stuff, I realized, like, okay, no one else sees the paintballers, so I need to just play it cool about the paintball thing, stop telling people about it. I convinced them that I'm fine. I don't need to go to the hospital. I just had a nightmare. They end up letting me go, and that was the one time I'd ever done it. So that was my one. So don't turn that into a clip to collab me with.
What minute are we at? And I'll make sure I get
it. But yeah. So anyway, long story short, I do the court program. I end up finally getting out of that. They send me home from that rehab. They know it's falling apart. And then I end up getting, of course, back locked up because I didn't complete the rehab program. So they locked me up for like 30 days. They finally let me out, and they up in front of the judge again because the last time, Evan, I don't know what else to do with you. Don't know what else to do, man. About to go to prison and finish your sentence there. And they go, you know what? Let's just send them to an AA meeting and see if, that'll do anything. And if you fail another drug test, they moved me to testing every day. So they were like, don't even call the hotline in with your color. Just come every day to the drug testing center, Evan. So I would have to come every day from Birmingham to out there to Shelby County and drug test every day. And they're like, go to an AA meeting. And you know what? They should have said that the first time and avoided all this stuff because, of course, I go to an AA meeting and it changes my life, right? Like I meet a guy there that ends up sponsoring me. And I get sober. And I stayed sober for several. This was 2016. I stayed sober for several, years. And then I would have like another slip up and and I would get sober again. So I kind of did that for a while, but I was done with the felony stuff. I was making strides,
What was it the community you were with, or you just kind of?
Yeah, it's a good question because it was like I had gotten a good job. I was working at the apartment deal, I'd gotten to know Scott then and everything. Everything was going good. It was the first job I had as a civilian. And I was staying sober. I was doing good, making okay money for what I'd been doing. And a literal drug dealer, fentanyl dealer, really big time kind of dude, ends up living in one of the apartments that I'm managing. And you could see what was going on. You knew what was going on there. And it just like one day end up talking to him, meet him, and end up, connecting back with that and start doing it again, and that's kind of when the fentanyl thing had become really, really big, and it wasn't heroin anymore, and people were dying all the time. And so, this happens, and it was at the same time I kind of start meeting a girl, and now I'm like in a serious relationship. I'm gonna get married and all this stuff's going good, but I'm battling this thing, trying to get myself sober. It was just hell, like living like that every day, just being dishonest is all it was. And so, I'm doing that, and obviously the relationship falls apart and all that kind of stuff. And things were just getting worse. I'd lost the job now. I wasn't doing good. Everything was just kind of going worse. I was starting to lose pretty much everything. COVID had happened. I was, lost the job, so I was running out of money. So I'm selling all the furniture in my house, and I'm sleeping. There's no furniture in this townhouse I own. I can't pay the mortgage, but thank you for the COVID thing, because they did some back pay plan with that. Didn't even affect me in the end. And I'm literally sleeping on the floor. So I had no bed. Someone had loaned me an air mattress, but because I was using the air mattress every day for months at a time, which air mattresses are not meant to be used every day for months at a time, it stopped holding air. So I would literally try to deflate the thing, and by the time I'd wake up in the morning, I'd be on the ground. With a blanket and a pillow laying on the ground. No job. Just trying to figure out how I was going to get high that day. That's what my life consisted of. And, it's good to be able to laugh about it now, but it was so sad. It was like literal hell. I would oftentimes think about heaven and hell. And I was like, man, is heaven and hell right now too? Can we be living in heaven while we're on this earth? What does that feel like? I would just have these thoughts. I wonder what it feels like to not have worries and things be going good and and then I would think about the hell that I was in, and the hell that I was in is that I was trapped. I was stuck. I had to do this drugs, in order to not be it's an addiction. You're addicted. I was going to do it, in my mind, I thought I could handle it myself and get myself sober. So I wasn't telling anyone that I needed help. That's just how it's always gone for me. That's been my biggest problem, is instead of admitting I need help, I drag it out.
Yeah.
And I act like everything's fine and I don't need help. And I'm going to handle it this way or this, because I don't want to make things worse by telling the truth, just all this BS you tell yourself, which if you just would have come clean in the beginning and gotten help, things would have been so much better, so much easier, so much quicker. Might not have lost the relationship, might not have lost the job, might not, but that's not how I chose to handle it. My church life, I said I quit going to church in college, but I had gotten back involved, and this is when I started going to Highlands. I remember going to Highlands for the first time. It was a church that was out of my first non-Church of Christ I'd gone to. It was a big deal for me. I thought I was going to go to hell from going to this one Wednesday. I agreed to going to a Wednesday night, a first Wednesday service. I'm not going to go to Sunday service. I'll go to the Wednesday one. And I go with the guy that was sponsoring me. And
so this is all happening after AA.
Yeah, this is I was sober at this time. It's one of those periods where I was sober, trying to keep it together. Things are good. I'm working in the apartment business at that job where Scott's Gym's upstairs, and things are going good. And my buddy that's sponsoring me kept inviting me to come to church. I was kind of trying to tell him about how I was raised, and church to me was like Church of Christ. If my parents found out that I was doing this, what would they think? What would my grandmother think? But at the same time, I was at this place where I was I need something more. Church of Christ wasn't working. And I'd also decided at that point in my life that, man, God doesn't care about all that religion crap. I've seen what God can do, and, what true, hell looks like. I've seen, I don't care. I just want real, genuine help. I really want to do something different, and I'm not getting it there. I'm just not getting it there. I was desperate to find something that stuck.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted a relationship with God. I wanted to do good. I wanted, to have that. And I don't care how I was going to find it, but I needed to find it somehow. So he invites me to this first Wednesday service, and I remember I was sitting in it, I'm only here so that I can say, okay, you went, and here's why you can't go there, Evan. Here's why it's wrong for you to go there. I was looking for that thing. What are they going to say or do that proves to me that I need to be going back to a Church of Christ, that this is wrong? And, of course, I never found it. And then Pastor Chris is the one speaking that night at the first Wednesday, and I hear him speak, and, I was like, this dude is prety good. He said a lot of things that made a lot of sense, and I started going down that road, man. And I was like, okay, this is good. This is, I'm actually learning about God here. this feels real. This feels genuine. He seems genuine. I know there's a bunch of trash about mega church this and money that and blah, 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 but who cares? Like, I'm finding something here. I want to do this. And so I commit and like kind of go all in, and before I'd gotten that last slip up with the dude in the apartments, the drug dealer in the apartments, like I was on the dream team. I was serving, I was like ushering. I was doing all this stuff. I was like listening to all the services on my phone, I was just fully invested and things were really, really good. And then of course, something happens and it pulls me away. And that just shows like, that's the thing in my life I've learned is that, things can be going great. You can be connected to God. You can turn your life around. Things can be awesome. God can do amazing things in your life. But I know that the devil's real because he's trying to get you back, and he knows how to get me back.
Yeah.
And he actively tries to do that. When he's got you, he's got you. He doesn't need to fool with you. He's already got you. But when you're doing right, you got to protect yourself from something that's going to bring you back. And it was always for me. The devil knows how to get me back. He's known how to get me back. And it's crazy. The situations, like right there in one of the apartments that I'm managing, that I have to knock on the door and hand a letter to when I'm out there passing out letters. Drug dealer opens the door. So it was just, it's wild how that works. But so, I had Highlands and stuff, but then I'd slipped up and I'm started down this road. I've lost the job. Now I'm sleeping on the floor, right? I'm isolating from everyone. I'm telling everybody everything's fine. And everybody knows it's not fine. And then one day, I get a knock on the door, and it's 3 guys standing there, and it's the dude that was sponsoring me, Tucker, and then 2 of my good friends. And they're like, "Hey, man, what's going on?" And I don't want them to see in the door too much because I don't want them to see how empty the house is. I'm still acting like in my head everything's cool, although my car had just gotten repossessed, and I'm like, the night before, and it's like, "What's going on, man?" And I'm like, "Oh, nothing, just chill." It's like middle of the day, I should be at work, and he says, "Look, we know that you're not doing well, and we know that you need help, and we've got, we've arranged for you to get some help." Or no, he says, I know that you need some help, what are you going to do here? And I said, I don't know. I don't know what to do. You're right. I do need help. I finally break down and I was like, you're right. I do. I need help. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
That's just to remember what I said. And like the relief that finally comes over you, he's like, well, we'll get you, we're going to get you something. We'll get you to a place. And sure enough, the next day I am on my way to rehab for time number 5 or 6 or however many it is. And I'm going to a place that's 3 months long. It's a, faith-based deal here in Thorsby, Alabama. I'm skeptical, but I'm also like, I'm desperate to get help. You're supposed to actually detox before you go to this place in a medical thing, but they were like, the guy that runs the place knows me, and he's good friends with Tucker that brought me out there. And he's like, just bring him. We've got a bed for him. Just bring him. So they bring me out there, and I end up detoxing there at the, little thing. It's a 3-month deal. It's called Turning Point. And faith-based place called Turning Point. And I remember just being relieved, it's like, all right, I'm here. Let me sober up. Let me get things going. And I went through hell. Like the withdrawals were bad, but I got COVID at the same time. Like COVID was still going around bad there, and it had just gone through the rehab. So I'm like deathly ill, but I'm like hanging on, and I finally start feeling better one day at a time. And I'm like getting my body moving again, and I'm just trying to get it back. And they do these phases, like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, so you have to kind of work your way up. It's 3 months long, and each day I start one day at a time, just a little at a time, start feeling better and better and doing a little bit better and pushing a little bit harder and doing a little bit more, just tiny baby steps, doing a little bit more. I was so physically weak, especially from the COVID and the withdrawals. Like I was broken. I couldn't walk upstairs hardly. I remember trying to work out at the little gym they had there. I could barely like bench the bar, basically, my body was so weak. But I just kind of slowly, one day at a time, keep going. And I just have a little bit of faith that things are going to get better. I'm going to be okay. We're going to get through this. God's got big plans for, telling myself all this stuff. Yeah. Surrounding myself with people that are, pouring life into you and telling you the same thing, and examples of miracles they've overcome, and guys that were addicts that aren't now, and are, you know, you're in that environment now. And it was great. It was like, I love that place, right? The executive director is a good friend of mine and knew me before I went in there. That's why they were so willing to help and just love me. It was great. And so while we're there, you know, you kind of phase up, and there's a lot of downtime and stuff. And so there's a few things to do out there at the rehab. There's a volleyball court. There's a little crappy gym that's basically a shed, a barn, you know. And there's a pickleball court. The pickleball court is a half basketball court. It's not even an actual pickleball court. It was a half basketball court that they had bought a net for and painted lines on, you know. And it actually wasn't even an official size of a pickleball court. So it was like too short, long ways. So the guys had like put a piece of plywood down that you would stand on and you would serve from the plywood. It was just a ghetto pickleball court, right? Rackets are falling apart, you know. And I remember I was like, what is that? You know, I'm looking over there. Like, what? Someone was telling me kind of what it was. It was pickleball. You've never played it? No, I've never played it. Like, you need to come play with us. You'll love it. I was like, all right, I mean, I'll give it a try. I start playing it, you know, and of course, fall in love with it. It was fun. It was so much fun, and like, loved it. You know, I was like organizing tournaments there at the rehab and getting guys to play on the weekends. And, you know, you want to play? I mean, we would play pickleball nonstop, hitting that pickleball back and forth. And then we're laughing and socializing and moving and, you know, all the things that exercise and socialization do for you, right? And so I was feeling better, and like, the time it's time to graduate and leave, I remember like I didn't want to leave, you know, I wanted to stay there. But it was time for me to go, and I had gotten, before the last time I used fentanyl, I'd seen my ex at Highlands one time, and I was trying to do good. I'd been doing good for a while. I see her there, and she's with another dude. And it'd been some time, but I had still kind of in my mind had some hope that maybe this was going to work out again one day, because I really cared about her and her son. And I was a piece of like when I was with him. Like, I wasn't always, but I knew that I wasn't that person, and I promised her someone that, you know, she wasn't seeing, and I just wanted to be able to give her that. And here I am doing better now, and like, but you know, at that point I kind of knew it was over. And so like, I just remember like my breath, like felt like all the air had come out of my body, you know, and I was like suffocating, because I knew when I left church, I was going to leave early, and I was going right down to the hood, and I was going to go get high. I remember that feeling. Yeah. And I knew all this sobriety I had up to that point didn't matter, didn't care. I knew there was nothing I could do about it at that point, other than had I told someone or done the right thing and called someone and said, hey, I'm struggling, maybe I should, you know. Of course, that wasn't it, though. I knew I was going to go high. I go right down there. You know, it'd been a while since I'd done the stuff, and it's really, really strong, so you gotta be careful. So I do this little tiny bit, just very small amount of fentanyl. And the last thing I remember is waking up in the back of an ambulance with paramedics over me. My sweatshirt's been cut open and pulled off of me, and all this shit's on me, you know. Yeah. And they're like, hey, you're okay. And I'm like looking around, you know, and I had overdosed. And I'd always heard stories of people overdosing, you know, and it had not happened to me until then. And the paramedic told me that they had done 3 rounds of Narcan, which Narcan is what brings opiate addicts back. Like, it's this naloxone medication that you squirt in the nose, and it's supposed to bring you out of an opiate overdose. It like reverses and it can make you sick and withdraw, but it kicks all the opiates out. Yeah. And they're only legally allowed to administer 3 before they have to stop treatment. And they had done 3. Oh, wow. And they thought I wasn't going to respond to it. Yeah. That I was just going to die. And what had happened was I did that little bit of fentanyl. I go to drive, right? It was raining, and apparently I crashed my car, and someone called, and I was out, overdose, crashed my car into this parking lot, and someone called an ambulance, and the ambulance came, saw that I was an overdose person, got me in the ambulance, brought me back, and I remember I get up, and when I come to, they're like, you need to go to the hospital, dude. Like, don't you want to go? I was like, I don't need to go. I'm not going to the hospital. You know, I was trying to get out of there before the police showed up, you know, because I knew what was about to go down, you know. But sure enough, I did not make it in time, and the cops came, and I was arrested on a non-alcohol related DUI. So that was the last time I had done it, right?
Yeah.
And it scared me. And I realized at that moment, too, that I wanted to be alive, right? I wanted to be alive. I wanted to live. And I wasn't sure if I did before that, you know? But now I knew. I was like, I don't want to die. I do want to be alive. There's more here for me, right? And I've been blown up. I've done all this stuff. I've gone through this. God's kept me alive through this. There's got to be more. And so when I was at the rehab, you know, I was about to graduate, been playing pickleball, been doing all this stuff. I leave. I move back in with my parents again in my 30s, you know. I start going to this small group where they watch the Chosen series and meet these people. This girl, Vanessa, and some other friends. No, but that's literally where I had come from when I came to the Chosen group. So I was like, I had just looked up, you know, you had told me about it at the Kill Me Crazy place. And I think invited, you know, me or whatever. And then someone else had mentioned it too. But anyways, I was like, at that point, I was like, I need to do something again. I'm fresh out of rehab. Wasn't sure if I was ready for church yet or not, you know, but I want to do something. And so I started going there and doing that. And then I just I was at this place where I was like, I'm going to, you know, I've been given another chance here. I'm starting over. I want to do, you know, I really want to. I'm just glad to be alive. I'm glad to be alive. I'm glad I have parents that I can live with. I was grateful. I wasn't embarrassed about my situation. I was truly grateful. And I knew that God had plans, that he does have plans for us all. Yeah. If we put ourselves in a position to be used by him, right? He can really make your story powerful. I didn't know what I was going to do, you know? Didn't have a clue. I was in crazy amount of debt, like 30, 40 grand worth of debt, you know, didn't have a job, didn't have a dime to my name, but I didn't care. I was fine. And, you know, I'm going to the Chosen group, right? And I'm like, well, I own this townhome, you know, maybe I can sell the townhome. You know, market's starting to kind of come around again. Didn't have to pay anything on the mortgage thing during COVID. And meet Matthew Colvin in the group, who's a real estate agent, who's a great dude, who's like, I start talking to him. He's like, I'll check out your house and help you with it if you want me to. Walks over there, right? Looks at the house. I literally don't have to do anything to it. He puts it on the market, has 3 offers the next day. We sell it within like 2 weeks. I make like $65,000 on the house, pay off every bit of debt I have, have money in my pocket, and I'm able to buy that Toyota Tacoma truck that I got, you know, pay cash for it. Yeah. So boom. Here I was spending all this time in rehab worrying about what am I going to do? I'm in debt. I owe all these people money. I owed a friend like 12 grand. I owed all this stuff, and I spending all this time in rehab and before rehab using drugs and just worrying about all this crap. And then that's when God's like, that's not even an issue. Yeah. You know, like I would have never thought that was going to happen. I could have never planned that. But boom, now all this debt's gone. You know, I don't owe anything. I don't have to worry about that anymore. I got money in the pocket. I'm living at my parents'. I don't have to go rush and get a job right now. Let's start messing around on TikTok and Instagram and just see what happens. That's what I'm passionate about, making people laugh. I'll, sharing so I just start like finding joy and, humor again and trying to make people laugh because I've always been good at that and doing comedy. And I start making little funny videos on TikTok and Instagram and, they start to do well and they start to grow slowly but sure. And I start seeing, I remember having like my first video go viral, like 700 something thousand views. And I was like, if I can do that one time, I can do it again. People find me funny. Let's see where this goes, So I just took it further and further. Then I started writing skits around things that I was doing. So I was playing a lot of pickleball still, which I had learned in rehab at Turning Point. Yeah. Right? This pickleball court. Never heard of the game. Pick the game up there at Turning Point. Playing pickleball there, right? I leave, continue to play pickleball. I start making funny videos about pickleball, and it just blows up. my account's growing, all these followers and this and that, and all these companies reaching out to me about, oh, dude, your pickleball stuff, we want to send you this and these paddles and this. And then that turns into, oh, we want to pay you to make videos to do this, and we want to pay you to do, and then I'm being flown all over the country to pickleball tournaments and making TV shows on the tennis channel, and doing all this crazy stuff, playing pickleball with Drew Brees and all these, Travis Kelce and George Kittle, and like doing all this crazy stuff, getting modeling jobs, doing, Chubby's clothing modeling jobs, my pictures up on this storefront at Chubby's, and, all this crazy stuff, like just from zero to all of that. And I could have never planned any bit of that. But all I did was what was that I was passionate about. I was like, I'm passionate about making people laugh. I enjoy making people laugh, and there's power in that. There's good in that. Right? I don't need to overthink it, Yeah. I know there's a God. I know there's, his son came to this earth and died on the cross for the forgiveness of our sins. I know that. I believe that. I've accepted that. I've been baptized. I've done, I don't have to figure all this, Church of Christ, this and that and blah, blah, blah out. I just need to not do drugs, Step number 1, stay off of the opiates. Don't use meth when you're in, simple stuff. Don't do drugs, and do what you're passionate about. Do what you feel like you've been called to do. And I didn't see humor or social media as my call. Like, I would have never guessed that as a calling. When you hear calling, right? We think of like, oh, it's got to be something big. It's got to be something meaningful. It's got to be something, what am I called to do, But no, your calling is just whatever comes naturally or feels good or makes you happy, It's like, find a way to do that. And like, what's happened is I found a way to do that. I found a way to make people laugh for a good reason. Yeah. Like, not to put people down or to hurt people or this. But I was getting all these messages like on Instagram, TikTok, when I was doing the fitness stuff, I ended up gaining weight after I got sober off opiates because I was still like looking for something just to fill that void at first. And I was like, well, at least it's not drugs. I'm just going to eat too much for a while, see how that goes. But there's a reason that happened too, because through that, I got to experience, I'd been in shape all my life. I got to experience what it's like to be out of shape like that, one, which I never had compassion for previously. I always thought it as laziness or this or that, but I got to feel what that's like. And then I also was making these, I wanted to get back in shape, so I'm making these funny videos of me working out. I'd take my shirt off. I was like, you know what? I don't care. Yeah. Screw people. I don't care what they say. I'm going to take my shirt off, and I'm going to make funny videos of me working out on the internet, and I don't give a F what they think or say. And people loved it. They found humor in that. And then I was getting these messages from people that were like, hey, I know this is meant to be funny, but just so you know, it's really, really helping me. I've been struggling with this and that, and I just am too scared to go to the gym, but I watch your videos, and I've actually gotten up and started doing some of the workouts that you're doing in your videos, along with you, and blah, blah, And I was like, oh, this is helping people, this is helping people. So I was like, there's purpose to this. Let me bring some humor to these people's lives, and then let me show them God that way. Right. Right? Like, that's how I can introduce people to God, is just by doing what I was born to do, and just live in a way that people say, oh, dude, what, your videos are so funny, man. How'd you start making social media content? Like, well, you got a second? I'll tell you. Back in Montgomery, October 1985, little baby boy was born. No.
Well, let me ask you this, because you went through a process of getting sober, getting back on drugs, sober, like a back and forth kind of cyclical process. That final time that you kind of kicked it. Mm-hmm. In just a few, like, what was the decision you made that really impacted you that time? I know you talked about joining the small group and stuff like that, but because I have people in my mind that I think about who maybe struggles with kicking the addiction.
Yeah, and you're like, what's it going to take for them to get sober?
What was that for you that actually made the difference that time? What was that decision?
I don't know that it was a decision. Anytime I've been addicted to a substance, I've always known in my heart and in my mind that this isn't going to go good, and it's not what I'm supposed to be doing, and it's bad, and I need to stop as soon as possible. I've always known. I've always gone into addiction knowing that. I've known it. I've been burned by it too many times. I know it's wrong. I know it's bad. Right? That's the addiction part. That's the power of addiction. It's right there. You know it's wrong. You know it's not going to be good. You can't stop you doing it, right? So I know that going into it. So I'm always like trying to stop whenever I start. You know, I'm always trying to stop in a sense. And I was always trying to do it myself, do it myself. Because in my mind, it was like, if I can stop without anybody finding out, then I avoid a lot of trouble. You know, the girlfriend won't leave me because she doesn't know that this was ever going on. The boss won't fire me because he doesn't know. The parents won't get mad because, you know, kick me out because they don't know. I was trying to prevent a lot of problems from happening by manipulating the situation and controlling it myself, is what that is. But that's always been the wrong answer. It's always the right answer is always going to someone that you trust and loves you, and you know you have that relationship with, and going, hey man, slipped up, dude. I need help. I'm back on it. No, it doesn't matter how embarrassing it is. Doesn't matter how many times you've been to rehab, how many times you've gone through this. That's the right answer. And then being willing to do whatever it is that you need to do to get sober. For me, it's always like it's taken a hard road to get me to that point to where it's like I've sold everything, I've lost, and now I'm so desperate. Something needs to intervene and help and happen, and fortunately I've had those interventions in my life. But I will say this, like, even though I'm sober, you know, from opiates now and haven't done all that stuff now, it's still something that I deal with. It's still something that I struggle with. Like, I'm not protected against going out and that happening again, you know? I have to, it's something that I've always got to be on top of and be aware of, but it's also like, I've always needed and wanted to get to a place where I just don't ever desire that anymore. Yeah. That was the thing. And it's like, I feel like that's always been the solution. Like, build a life that isn't worth losing, is how it's been described to me. And it's like, well, how do you do that? You know, what does that look like? What's a life that isn't worth losing, you know, look like? And yeah, that's what I'm building today. That's what I'm doing now. I don't want to lose the first class flights to Los Angeles to film with this person, or do this modeling gig, or get paid to,
or do a basement
wear
interview,
shorts, and or come here and sit in this basement with you and spill my guts out. But yeah, that's doing stuff like this, honestly, even if I didn't know you or weren't your friend, I still would have made this work and done this. Because I told myself, anytime I was asked, to do something or to share my story or to whatever, and it was something like I could check out and go, okay, it's not a serial killer. They're not going to try to molest me in their basement, that they're, with two people that are now staring at, with the bed. All right, you know what? This is over. It's like, I would check it out.
Take the mic off.
I would vet the people, right? But no, like, anytime it was like, hey, dude, and it didn't matter how big their account was, or how many followers they had, or how big, some people get to that point where like, oh, I'm not doing that podcast. They got 5,000 followers. Like, that's not worth my time.
Should we anywhere there?
Like, it's like, dude, that doesn't matter. Everybody starts social media at 0. When you start an account, everybody starts at 0. You have to grow that from 0. So I always kept that in mind. And it was also like, dude, someone did that for me when I was growing my account, and I wanted someone to collab with me or share this or repost that or do this. People helped me out, and it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, forget all those numbers and this and that. Just do it because it's the right thing to do. And that was one of the things that I promised myself I was going to do, is like, make yourself available. Your responsibility now is to share that story when you're asked to. And be honest and be open and be authentic and be vulnerable and continue to share it. And another thing I've been really deliberate about through this is donating like 10% of my income since I've started making money doing this. 10% has gone to that rehab.
That's awesome.
And man, I've been able to get some good
Turning
money at that rehab, which is like crazy, because they need it, and not every, the percentage of guys that leave there and then start donating to it are very small. So they definitely need. I've spoken at their fundraiser.
This is Turning Point.
And I've in the process of trying to improve their pickleball situation. So like I donated 50 pickleball paddles 2 Christmases ago. And I'm working on, I've been talking about it and need to make it happen, but it will happen. But I'm going to build them a nice, better pickleball court, and that's just going to take some time, but it'll happen. And then what I want to do, my vision is to start a charity organization that raises money so that we can go put pickleball courts into facilities like theirs, because they don't have them. Turning Point's got one, but not everyone does. And go build them at rehabs, build them at other places where people need something like that to come together and do, because there's a lot of power. It's not about the game, the sport. It's about what happens when you get together with people and play it.
Is that the difference? Because I know you mentioned, I wish that they just sent me to AA in the beginning. Was it the community that you got through AA that really helped? And like having, I think you said Tucker as your sponsor.
And it's like there's kind of a joke. There's been people that have made this joke in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous before. When they talk about how they wish they just would have found AA before they found rehab, because it's like they paid $120,000 for a big book, instead, because they went and spent that money at rehab. So it's kind of, it's like the solution. The point is, like, I definitely needed rehab. I've needed rehab every time I've gone, because I needed to separate myself from that and the drug and the life and all that. I needed separation. That's why the 3-month thing at Turning Point was crucial, because I needed, the more time was better.
Yeah.
It was long enough to really get me separated from it. But then, like, the solution, even in Alcoholics Anonymous, and if you talk to anyone that really knows this, after you read the big book, after you work the steps, after you do that, it all is about finding a God that you believe in, that is bigger than you and greater than you and more powerful than you, and then righting your wrongs, getting your life in order, doing this, living by spiritual principles, but finding a God and turning your life over to him. That's the solution of the big book. Yeah. The big book was created from the Bible. The guy was a Christian. But he's able to reach people because people like me that have been burned in the Church of Christ or hurt by this, or had a dad that was in the church that was an alcoholic, or this or that, they don't want to go hear about God whenever they're trying to get sober. And that's why the big book uses the term higher power. Yeah. But the guy that authored the big book, the people that authored it, definitely were referring to Jesus Christ when they were talking about their higher power. But they say, hey, look, if you find a higher power and it's the doorknob on that door over there, and that's your higher power, but that doorknob keeps you sober and turns your life around, follow the doorknob.
Right.
If it's working, follow the door. But kind of the...
Well, there's something I wanted to point out, because I think that you kind of, in what you've said, and, of course, I'm working through my postpartum brain right now, but you were talking about how you kind of made that shift. You were like, I'm just going to try it. I'm going to do a small group. And I could cry just talking about that, because I think what's important that people can gather from is, like, even if you think something's not that big of a deal, just do it.
Yeah.
And I know for me, like, I'm sorry.
No, I love it.
That small group, that was the whole reason why I got that shop, so that I didn't have a home environment to support. Like, I lived in a small house, and I wanted to do that small group. I didn't realize that it was so close to everything that you were going through timeline wise. So that's pretty cool, like, to think about that. But even separate from me, but like, I wanted to host a small group, and I just thought The Chosen, because it had so impacted my life just watching that TV series. But it was just something simple and little I could do to be a part of something, to create a community for myself and for others. And just like hearing how you're talking about Matthew Calhoun, how he helped you sell your townhouse, which was a pretty big pivot point for you to get to a place where you were financially secure or financially off, like better back home. Like, it just kind of was that turning point for you. And I just think of all the other people that I've met in that process. And then, like, even going to what you're saying, like with Instagram, like, it doesn't really matter how many people you have. Like, you just get started. Just do something that's fun to you. Just do something that you enjoy. because God can really use just the simple little things.
Anything and everything.
Yeah.
And like thinking about it is like I owe you a big thank you, you know? Like I'd better be doing this podcast because it's because
Well,
of
you don't owe me anything, but that's just
but isn't that crazy? Like how small, like, and it's not crazy. You know, I used to like not appreciate like or think like, oh man, that's so wild how you started this group. And this, it's not wild, it's God. It's like you doing what you felt your heart was calling you to do.
Yeah.
You know, you get this shot because you want to host this small group and you're unsure about it. You don't know how it's going to go. You don't even know. I remember us talking, you know, before you even doing it, and like it was either the second time you did it or something. Maybe I was a little bit more involved with talking to you about, you know, helping you out with it in whatever way I could. I feel like it was the second time we did that. But yeah, when you started it, how unsure you were about it and just hesitant. You didn't know what you're going to do. And, you know, do we watch shows and then we talk about it? Like, I know that you didn't feel like it was anything special that you were, you know, you were doing, but sure enough, like the amount of lives that, like just all that was connected from that, and like how pivotal it was for me, because had I not had, you know, that place to go to and the friends to meet and like just you and Matthew and all these people, you know, and then like just doing the social media stuff was also challenging, because you're like, I'm in my 30s. I'm also like, you know, fighting off a DUI case from 2 years ago. I have no job. You know, should I be making videos on TikTok while I live with my parents? It seemed, you know, I remember telling my brother one time, he called it, you know, he's got 4 kids, super successful, owns this business. Hey, what are you up to, man? Oh, nothing, dude. I'm just shooting this TikTok video at mom and dad's. I'm like 35 years old. And I was thinking, that sounds really, that sounds lame. But so I needed an environment and a group of friends that were like supportive of that and like got it. And like, yeah, it's like, obviously I would have done it anyways. And I didn't care what people thought and this and that. But I also very much had like a network around me that was like supportive of that and supportive of me. And then I could be supportive of them. And it's like you mentioned with Matthew, I was so uncomfortable and scared going into the sale of that house because I was really, really worried. I was worried because I was embarrassed. You know, I was worried I was going to be judged. You know, the house wasn't in terrible shape, but it wasn't in great shape. There's no furniture. You know, I needed to be able to tell someone the truth about what got me into this position in order to properly sell the house. And I was worried about that. Where am I going to find a real estate agent? You know, who's going to want to take this? I don't even know if it's worth money. And man, Matthew just came right in, all bubbly, smiley, and walks around one time. Says, oh, it's great. You know, he does. It's great. No, this place is great. It's great. No, you don't need to paint the walls. No, and maybe have it cleaned, but yeah. Puts it on the market 3 days. We do nothing to it. Gets all these offers, you know, and it sells. Like, which one do you want to take, man? We're getting offers that were, he ended up looking it up. My house at the time sold for the most that any house has sold on that street and in that neighborhood over the last several years. It's done way over, you know, what it was worth, like weird, like oddly over, you know, and left enough money for me to handle all that and then have money left over, which I didn't think was even possible.
It's just neat to see kind of how God uses small actions to, and I'm not saying that the small group is credited. I'm just grateful to see how, when I think of just your story, just how that space could have just opened you up to, you know, little things like that. So, and Matthew since then has passed away. You know, we've had two deaths in the small group. So it's just been really neat to kind of see how, you know, bittersweet to see the living and the experiencing and the support that group has brought. And like all the girls, we still all get together. I was talking to some of the guys the other day, and it's just,
that's good.
It's so neat to see.
See Kelsey Nassif at all? You don't see Kelsey?
No, she's not in the, but we do some like Emily Ballou.
Oh yeah.
Alexa, Taylor Strickland, but just like, you know, some of the originals, but,
Nassif was an OG. Where's Nassif at?
I know she's busy. I think her work and everything.
Boozing in Southside.
Shut up.
No, I'm just joking.
But it's cool just to see what, if you're just willing to be obedient to
Yeah.
whatever you feel led to do,
Yep.
do it. Because even if it seems insignificant or little, God
Just
can
do it.
really use it to puzzle piece a lot of other different areas, things that you don't even know is going on behind the scenes.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, don't be afraid. Just do it. You don't even have to. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to lift everything on your own. Like, I'm not saying this in a bad way, but it wasn't like you had to do a ton of stuff to put that group on.
No.
We just ordered pizza. It was very low key. It was like, yeah, you had the shop and everything, but in terms of hosting the group, there wasn't a ton of effort that needed to go into that. It was just opening the door and showing up.
Yeah.
And letting everything else happen. And that's kind of like, it's like, yeah, I've got to, that's my thing. I always have to remember, and even now, it's like, God's not going to do it for me, by any means. Like, when I need to get sober and I'm like, in hell on addicted, and I'm multiple times, countless times this has happened where I'm begging God, like, either get me out of this or kill me, because I do not want to go through this again. I don't want to do this. It's the worst, withdrawal and all that. It's the worst thing. You're laying on the floor sick. You don't want to, like, begging God. And like, why? Like, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be going through this, God. Why would a God that loves me and cares about me and all this let me go through that? Why can't you just pull me out of this and take away that desire for me to want to do this again? Why can't that happen? Why? I've asked that multiple times. I've screamed that. and it's like, because, where would the power be in that?
Yeah.
Where would the stories come from if he just made it all okay?
Yeah.
You've got to be able to be in a position to be used by God. And for me, that means staying of a sound mind and, physically at least capable to do something. And then, being in a position to be used by God, and then, being willing to at least start the process of doing something. So for me, it's like picking up my phone and shooting these videos. I wasn't thinking about God when I started doing that, but it's become something that very much is like all comes back to that.
Well, and you're using your God-given personalities, to do, things that come natural to you, being funny and enjoying life and making situations humorous.
Using it for good. And then through that have been able to, make a living and a comfortable living and make money, but also like, okay, now like you're making money and he's giving you these things. So like, what are you going to do with those things, to be helpful? And it's like, oh, for me, that looks like giving back, I've gotten phone calls from that rehab before where Brian calls me and he says, hey man, we've got this veteran. He's homeless. Someone's taking him to the VA right now. He's coming off of detox and alcohol, but he's got nowhere to go. We're trying to raise money for him to come to rehab or, come to Turning Point, which it's like, they can put someone through 3 months there for like $3,000 to $5,000, which is unheard of. That's extremely cheap. They're a nonprofit place. That's very, 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 very cheap. And I've been able to go. And he'd say, can you help us, just putting the word out if you want to donate some specifically towards that, or you got some guys that you can call to help raise some money. And I've been able to say, I'll send you the money to send him right now, and I don't, without batting an eye, like I don't have to call anyone. I can send him right now, and like, that's, cool. And it's like, it's not something I like talk about because I don't want it to sound like, oh, look at what I'm doing. But the fact that I do it, that's the thing too. It's like, have a heart that will actually do those things, because I could also not do that and like just be greedy and be, but man, I found that the more that you give, like in those situations, the more God's going to return it and give it back tenfold, because he sees what you're doing with it. So it's like, it feels good to get those phone calls and then be in a position to just say, hey, I'll send you the $5,000 today, dude. Get him, pick him up, and get him some help.
Yeah.
My buddy passed away of an overdose that I went through Turning Point with, and it was really, really sad. Anthony Graff was his name. Great dude. We came in like right around the same time. And really, really, really good guy. Super talented. we graduate kind of together. He ends up staying and working there at Turning Point. He's doing really, really good. You know, his life's going great. We stay in touch. I moved to Nashville. He sees all the cool stuff I'm doing. He was one I played pickleball with. So whenever that company I work with made the Fit to Serve pickleball paddle, you know, I sent him one, and he was so like, thought it was the coolest thing and was just so happy and proud of it, you know, and was like showing it off, and like changed his profile picture on Facebook to him holding the paddle with me, you know, and just really, really good guy. And meets this girl, and you know, they start dating and talking to each other, and then she ends up getting pregnant, and so now he ends up marrying her, and they're having a child together. And then just one day randomly he overdoses and dies. And he wasn't using, like he hadn't been using. It was just the devil, you know, got him. He got him. You know, whatever situation it was, he was obviously put in a quick situation where he had an opportunity to use.
Yeah.
And he failed, and he used, and it killed him. And now the, you know, wife is raising the child without the dad. Baby will never know who Anthony was, or, you know, or never get to physically see him. But I remember when that happened, it was around Christmas time. And, you know, she had a job, but Anthony, you know, they both needed to work to support their life. Right around Christmas time, dude, and you know, Anthony's gone, and she's making, you know, an hourly wage, pregnant, alone, you know. And I remember Steven, who I was really close with that works at Turning Point, like called me and said, just told me what was going on, you know, told me about Anthony, told me what was going on, and told me the position that she was in. And I was able to send a really large amount of money to her, like Christmas time. And I told Stephen, I was like, I don't want anybody to know where this came from. I don't want her to know where it came from. She knows who I am. I don't want her to know where it came from. No one knows where it comes from. I'm going to Venmo this to you directly. You know, then you send it somewhere.
Yeah.
Let them think it came from you if it deters it from, you know, thinking it came from me. But, you know, and I heard like about kind of like how impactful that was for her at the time and what they were going, you know, because she had another kid too that she was having to buy Christmas gifts for. And it just feels good to be able to be that on this side of it now and not being the one that's needing, you know, needing someone now. You know, it's kind of like, here's your test now that you're through it.
Yeah.
You know, are you going to pass it, you know?
When it's like, I think it's an incredibly sober kind of realization that, you may be going through the trenches like you went through. You were pretty much at the lowest of lows. You know, we're living just in a shell of a house, whatever, but you didn't give up. And I know that you were saying at one point you were praying like, God, either help me through this or kill me. And it just shows you that there's so much more life to live regardless of whatever situation you're in the moment. Like if you were to have just given up, taken your own life or something, you overdose or something, look at everything that would have been missed out years later.
Oh, yeah.
And this woman, you know, the widow of your friend may not would have even had that support. Like it just shows, again, the puzzle piece of how God uses you if you can just kind of keep pushing through and making, just like you were saying even before, and it was something I've told a loved one. It's like all you have to do is just make one small step a day to move forward. One small step, and then you can look back and see how far you've come. But just realizing that there's so much more to life and creating, like you said, a life that's worth living. Yeah. Not wanting to miss out on.
Yeah, hopefully she doesn't see this podcast because then she'll know that I sent the money. So I probably I just blew it.
It could be anybody.
Cut all that. His name wasn't Anthony Graff. It was Anthony Smaff. It's a different dude. Not related to
take
any
her
of
phone, take her, lock her out of her social media account. She can't see
now,
this.
You know? So, no. Yeah, you know, you're right. It just, you got to be available. You got to be willing. You got to be, because not everybody will do it. That's what's crazy. It's you can still be in the best position. And I know some of the nicest guys, some of the most successful guys, and it's like, I wouldn't call them. Yeah. You know, when I get that phone call about a veteran and hey, call some of your dudes and raise some money to help get this veteran. You know, I know millionaires that I wouldn't call.
Yeah.
Because I know they're not going to get it.
Yeah.
God needs people that get it.
Yeah.
You know, and how do you best get it? You go through it, right?
Yeah.
And everybody goes through their own struggles. And it's like, God chose drug addiction for me. And, you know, I have to, you know, I have to like, because I've battled with that a lot. Like,
it's that thorn in your side, the thorn
like,
in the flesh. Yeah.
How does, something good can come from this, but man, this is a sketchy road to go down to get something good to come out of, because people die doing this or go to prison for the rest of their life. So it's like, you know, I just think it takes really strong, you know, it takes a strong individual. And I've looked at myself as weak in the past and have been corrected on that. And it's like, I'm really not. Like, I'm actually pretty freaking strong and resilient.
Yeah.
And have been able to come through things that, you know, other people might not be able to. I always reference my brother and how successful and how beautiful his life looks on, you know, on the outside, and to me, and to like how normal and easy it seems. And it's like, one, I don't know what he goes through, but I don't know that he could, you know, handle going through something like that. Yeah, I just don't think that's his personality. I don't think that's his type. My mom's even told me that. So it's like, yeah, like, you got to be able to I think we can do more. We can reach a lot more people when we've walked in those shoes and walked in those steps. And so it's like, I don't think God makes us go through these struggles, or that we have to go through these struggles. Like, I choose to put that in or use whenever I do it. But it's like what comes from that whenever you get through it and how it can be used is where the power and the, you know.
Yeah.
Because then if it didn't work that way, it would be like, oh man, I really want God to work in my life. I'm going to go smoke meth after this so that he can use me. I'm going to go become a drug addict. Just go through some really bad things out there and then let God turn that around for me. And, you know, no. Yeah, you just have to like, that is something I literally think about and battle with all the time.
Yeah.
Because I still, not like worried, but I still have things I'm working on. I still have things that I'm trying to work through and get through and survive. And like, I want to be in a place in life where it's like, you know, 100% confident that any of that stuff is truly behind me, you know, because I still think about that sometimes. I still worry about that. It's like when things start going good and successful, I get scared sometimes, you know, like even moving to Nashville, I was scared to leave my parents at the time because it felt like a safe place. And when I moved, I was like, okay, you know, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go, dude. Better not. You know what can happen. Like, time to get it together. But I don't know. All we can do is take it one day at a time and keep trying to do the best that we can. Someone else had told me one time, this guy in the, you know, drug rehab world I really respect, and I've debated on whether I believe this or not, but or if it, I'll let you take it in and see. He says he believes that everybody is doing the best that they can at that time in their life. So like right now, we're doing the best that we can do at the time that we're in our life. And I was wondering why he was saying that, because it was like, what about Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yeah.
You know, what was he doing the best that he could do when he was eating people? But I think it was more like, don't judge people, you know, for what they're currently going through.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, like, this might be the best that they can do right now.
Yeah.
You know,
like we're really never going to know, so you might as well just assume everyone's doing the best that they can do.
This is the best that they can do. I'm doing the best that I can do. You know, am I really doing that? You know, and it's like, well, as long as I stay sober and I keep like putting forth the effort, because I have learned through this though, like even being sober, I have learned, and this happened not long ago, you know, maybe a year and a half or so, just kind of what I've been going through just after, you know, while this is going on, pressures of life and pressures of now with the, you know, from the social media stuff and pressure I put on myself. It's like, I can, even though I'm like, I don't use a substance, like, or maybe I'm not addicted to something now, or I'm not on drugs, I can still make my life like that. Like I can still live like I was, like, so like when I was on drugs, it caused me to be lazy, not work hard, not be a good employee, not exercise or take care of myself, not do all these things. And I can do all those things without using drugs.
Yeah.
And I've discovered, I went through a period where I was like in this slump, man. I was like, actually talked to an astrologist and they were like, read my charts and signs. They're like, you're like on a decline right now. And I was like, no, tell me about it. Like, maybe this is real, She nailed it. And sure enough, man, I was on a decline. And it's because I was like complacent, lazy, maybe unmotivated, happy with, where I was at or whatever, but I just wasn't, I'd lost that spark. I'd lost that, like, and when that happens, recognize it, see what's going on, figure it out, see what needs to change, to get that back, and not beat myself up for going through stuff like that. That's the big thing, because I can really, really beat myself up.
Yeah. Maybe set new goals.
Give myself forgiveness.
To have something to work towards instead of the comfort of what you achieved. And
see what needs to change. Maybe something needs to change, maybe you need to change your job or change this or change. And just being open to that,
Yeah.
And just honestly, it comes back to being real, being real and truthful and honest with myself and others. If I can do that and just be honest, then that's where it starts. That's the foundation, not be deceitful or lying. Just be honest. If I'm struggling with something right now, talk about it. Tell someone about it. Don't lie or manipulate or try to make it look one way when
or tell them what you think they want to hear. Or,
right.
Yeah. Well,
we went down a road.
We did. You did.
Hopefully, I didn't ramble on too much.
No, you did incredible. I feel like you just did a wonderful job. There was nothing I needed to do. I appreciate it.
Well, no,
I appreciate you. No, I'm just saying, like, a lot of times, sometimes I'll have to ask questions and stuff, but I think that
I'm a talker.
No, you did an incredible job where I just enjoyed listening, and I feel like you shared so many amazing, there's so many points in there that I was like, oh gosh, I hope so-and-so watches this so they can hear it. I just feel like it's so beneficial, and I just appreciate you sharing your story, and
I appreciate you asking me.
And not giving us the opportunity to share it.
Well, yeah, I was going to say too, I'm glad you didn't get, after the second or third.
I didn't block you.
Yeah. Turns out I'm not going to make it this weekend. No, you know what that is about this? I overcommit to things that I really want to do, because it's like, I don't want to tell them no. I really want to do this. I am going to do this. But then it's like, oh, but you're also out of town that whole month.
Yeah.
So how are you going to do that?
Well, and just a little bit about me. If someone commits to doing something and then they say they can't, then I'm like, okay, it lets me off the hook. Because at nighttime when I record, I'm like, I'm tired. I've got a baby that I've been, with all day. And so I never feel bad about canceling on me. So I'll be like,
and that's a
Mama
true
needs
friend,
rest.
A true friend.
Ryan needs rest. Ryan has tons to do.
Ryan's been asleep on the couch this whole time. He's fine over there.
He didn't get smacked with a big painting like he did last time. But Evan, thank you for being my friend.
Thank you for being my friend.
And I love you. And I'm just thankful to know you.
I love you too, Vanessa. It's been a really really tough, You've really
Who's
been
Vanessa?
important in my life. No,
all right.
It's been great.
Well,
I forgot about calling you Vanessa that first day.
No.
Kale me crazy.
Kale me crazy.
Who the hell eats there? Disgusting.
I love
Kale sandwich.
I've actually found what I like, so I love it. But
from kale to smoothies, white rice and chicken smoothies.
I think Scott would be craving some kale right now. He'd be open for that. But all right. Well, again, thank you for coming on. You did an incredible job. You're the best guest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like hearing it.
All right. Thank y'all for listening. Tune in next time.